For centuries, humanity has unearthed remnants of ancient civilizations, artifacts, structures, and relics that defy explanation. But what if some of these discoveries are not just lost history, but mysteries that challenge everything we think we know? Deep in the earth, hidden beneath layers of time, lie secrets that could rewrite the story of our origins. From bizarre artifacts with no clear purpose to colossal monuments that defy engineering logic, these ancient wonders leave us with one burning question: what are we truly missing? In the next few hours, we'll uncover the shocking truths behind these enigmatic discoveries. Prepare to have your understanding of history turned upside down. Nestled in the sun-bleached hills of southern Spain, near the modern town of Almeria, lie the ancient fortifications of Los Millares, a site that, when first discovered, baffled archaeologists. Here, amidst the arid landscape, the ruins of a Bronze Age settlement stretch across the earth, their long-forgotten walls whispering stories of a distant time. Built around 2000 BC, these fortifications are a testament to a civilization whose name we may never know, but whose achievements continue to intrigue and mystify. The fortifications themselves are an imposing sight. Thick stone walls, spanning several kilometers, once encircled a thriving community. They are not the remnants of mere huts or makeshift structures, but of something much more formidable, a defense system that suggests a society capable of strategic planning and complex social organization. The outer walls, reinforced with circular bastions, stand tall even today, their weathered stones a silent testament to the ingenuity of their creators. But who were they? And why did they feel the need to construct such a massive defensive barrier? As one traces the outlines of these walls, it's impossible not to wonder, what were they protecting themselves from? The site itself suggests that the people of Los Millares lived in a time of both growth and tension, an age when early forms of agriculture, metallurgy, and trade were flourishing. Yet, despite this progress, the need for fortification seems undeniable. Some scholars believe that the fortifications were built in response to the growing competition for resources, possibly from neighboring tribes or early states. Others suggest that the walls may have had a more symbolic purpose, a way to assert power or to demarcate territory in a world where boundaries were still fluid and shifting. It is in the details of Los Millares where the mystery deepens. Unlike other Bronze Age settlements in the region, Los Millares is marked by an unusually high concentration of burial sites. These tombs, often found within the walls themselves, seem to suggest that the community was not only defending its material wealth, but also its spiritual or ancestral heritage. The dead were carefully interred, surrounded by rich offerings, including pottery, weapons, and even remnants of elaborate jewelry. These practices point to a society with a complex belief system, one that saw death as a passage that needed protection as much as life. Yet, despite the wealth of material evidence, much about the inhabitants of Los Millares remains a mystery. The people who built these fortifications, buried their dead with such reverence, and crafted elaborate metalwork did not leave behind written records. No inscriptions, no texts, only the ruins themselves, which speak to us in a language of stone and earth. Theories abound, but definitive answers remain elusive. One theory posits that Los Millares was part of a larger network of fortified settlements spread across the Mediterranean, linked by shared cultural practices and trade. Was this an early attempt at a form of organized statehood, perhaps a precursor to the more centralized powers that would emerge in the centuries to come? Or was it something else entirely? An isolated community driven to create a powerful symbol of resistance against external threats. Even more intriguing are the oddities buried within the site itself. In addition to the usual tools, pottery, and weapons, a few unusual artifacts have surfaced, objects that defy easy explanation. For instance, Some of the metalwork found at Los Millares suggests an advanced level of metallurgy that seems ahead of its time, particularly for a society that existed more than 4,000 years ago. Was this knowledge passed down from an even older civilization? Or was it the result of a groundbreaking technological discovery? And then there are the unexplained features of the site's layout, seemingly random yet precise stone arrangements within the walls that might suggest a level of astronomical or calendrical knowledge. Were these markings used for celestial navigation, or perhaps as a form of ritualistic practice? As yet, no one has been able to definitively decode their meaning. All of these questions about the purpose of the fortifications, the advanced metallurgy, the seemingly intentional burial practices, remain unanswered. And as we examine the remnants of Los Millares, we are left to wonder, is there more beneath the surface? Could future discoveries reveal further secrets hidden in the walls of this ancient site? Or have we already uncovered all that it has to offer? What truly happened to the people of Los Millares, and what more can their story tell us about the origins of human civilization? Perhaps, in the end, the true mystery of Los Millares is not just in its ancient walls, but in the silence that still surrounds it. A silence that beckons us to look deeper, to listen harder, and to wonder if we are still missing something crucial, something buried in the sands of time, waiting to be found. As we leave behind the ancient stone walls of Los Millares and journey across the ocean, there is another mysterious place, tucked away in the heart of the American Southwest, that continues to puzzle archaeologists and historians alike: Chaco Canyon. Situated in what is now northwestern New Mexico, this arid, remote valley was once home to one of the most sophisticated and enigmatic societies in pre-Columbian North America. Today, it stands as a testament to the ingenuity of a civilization whose precise purpose and eventual disappearance remain shrouded in mystery. When you first set eyes on Chaco Canyon, it's hard not to be struck by the scale and scope of the ruins that rise out of the desert floor. Massive stone structures, some of the largest ever built by prehistoric peoples in the Americas, are scattered across the canyon. The buildings, known as great houses, are large, multi-storied complexes constructed from thousands of sandstone blocks, each weighing several tons. The largest of these, Pueblo Bonito, is a sprawling structure that once contained over 600 rooms and is thought to have been a center of commerce, politics, and perhaps spiritual life. The sheer size of these structures suggests a well-organized society capable of undertaking monumental architectural projects. But as impressive as the physical structures are, it's the mysteries hidden within and around them that truly capture the imagination. What purpose did Chaco Canyon serve for the people who lived there? And why did it suddenly fall into decline around the late 12th century, leaving behind only ruins and unanswered questions? Mainstream theories suggest that Chaco Canyon was the heart of a vast network of settlements spread across the southwestern United States. At its peak, somewhere between 850 AD and 1150 AD, it was the center of a thriving culture known as the ancestral Puebloans, or Anasazi. These people were skilled farmers, traders, and architects, and it's believed that Chaco Canyon served as a political, ceremonial, and trade hub. The canyon was strategically positioned near a network of ancient roads, some of which extended for hundreds of miles, suggesting that Chaco Canyon was not just a local center, but a key node in a larger regional system. Yet, for all the evidence that Chaco Canyon was a vibrant and influential center of life, there are numerous elements of the site that remain unexplained. One of the most intriguing aspects of Chaco Canyon is the alignment of its buildings with celestial bodies. The great houses at Chaco appear to be carefully aligned with the movements of the sun, moon, and stars. In particular, the sunrise and sunset on the solstices seem to have played a significant role in the planning of the site's architecture. Could these alignments have been intended for astronomical observations? Or were they part of a larger cosmological belief system? The evidence for Chaco Canyon's astronomical significance is compelling. Archaeologists have discovered a variety of astronomical instruments at the site, including petroglyphs and carved rock features that may have been used to track the position of the sun and stars. Some researchers even speculate that Chaco Canyon functioned as an observatory, a place where the movements of the heavens were studied and interpreted. This raises the possibility that the people of Chaco had a sophisticated understanding of the cosmos, perhaps even more advanced than we initially believed. But if Chaco Canyon was a site of astronomical observation, the question remains, why was this knowledge so central to their society? Was it simply a tool for agricultural planning, a way to track the seasons and ensure the survival of crops? Or did the alignment with the heavens serve a more mystical or ritualistic purpose? Some have speculated that the people of Chaco Canyon believed their rulers to be direct descendants of the gods, their power derived from an intimate knowledge of celestial movements. If this was true, then Chaco Canyon was not just a political center, but a sacred space, a place where the earthly and divine realms intersected. But while the astronomical alignments are fascinating, they are not the only mystery surrounding Chaco Canyon. Perhaps even more perplexing are the enigmatic roads that radiate from the site. More than 400 miles of these Chacoan roads have been identified, some stretching as far as the neighboring regions of Arizona and Colorado. These roads are remarkably straight and often traverse difficult terrain, and their purpose remains unclear. Why would the ancestral Puebloans invest so much effort into building roads that seem to lead to nowhere in particular? Some researchers argue that the roads were part of a grand ceremonial or trade network, connecting Chaco Canyon to other settlements and facilitating the exchange of goods and ideas. Others believe that the roads may have been used for pilgrimage, a way for people from surrounding areas to travel to Chaco Canyon for religious or ceremonial purposes. But no one knows for certain, and the mystery of the roads only deepens the enigma of Chaco Canyon. Adding to the intrigue is the sudden collapse of Chaco Canyon around the late 12th century. The civilization that once flourished here, building grand structures, developing intricate road systems, and studying the stars, appears to have disappeared almost overnight. Some archaeologists believe that a combination of environmental factors, such as prolonged droughts, may have contributed to the decline. The ancestral Puebloans were heavily reliant on agriculture, and if the region experienced a severe drought, it could have decimated their food supply, leading to famine and social unrest. But drought alone does not explain the abrupt and mysterious abandonment of Chaco Canyon. There is also evidence of social upheaval, such as signs of violence and the destruction of certain buildings. Were the people of Chaco Canyon driven out by external invaders, or was the collapse the result of internal conflict? And if so, what caused the sudden breakdown of this once thriving society? There are also fringe theories that suggest a more mysterious explanation for the fall of Chaco Canyon. Some have proposed that the people of Chaco may have been forced to abandon the site due to spiritual or supernatural reasons. Could the mysterious alignments with the heavens have led the inhabitants to believe that their time at Chaco had come to an end? Did they leave because they believed the gods had abandoned them, or because they had fulfilled their sacred mission? Perhaps, in the end, the mystery of Chaco Canyon lies not in any single theory, but in the layers of questions it raises. What was the true purpose of this remarkable place? Was it a center of knowledge, a ceremonial center, or a thriving metropolis? And why did it fall into ruin so abruptly? As we continue to study the ruins of Chaco Canyon, we are reminded that even in the modern world, there are still mysteries that defy explanation. Places where the line between history and legend is blurred, and where every stone, every alignment, every artifact holds a secret waiting to be uncovered. And just as with Los Millares, we are left to wonder, what other secrets might still lie buried in the dust of Chaco Canyon, waiting for us to uncover? As we leave the vast desert landscapes of Chaco Canyon behind, our journey takes us across the seas to an island in the Celtic Sea, where another ancient mystery awaits: Bryn Celli Dhu, a passage tomb located on the island of Anglesey, off the coast of Wales. This megalithic structure, hidden within the island's verdant hills and misty landscapes, is one of the most remarkable and enigmatic prehistoric sites in Europe. Built around 3000 BC, Bryn Celli Dhu is a place where the lines between history, ritual, and the supernatural seem to blur, where the living and the dead may have once met in the shadow of stones that have witnessed millennia of change. At first glance, Bryn Celli Dhu may seem like nothing more than a pile of stones. But as you approach, something begins to shift. There is a sense of reverence in the air, an ancient stillness that seems to resonate from the earth itself. The tomb is hidden beneath a mound of earth and stone, a structure built into the landscape in such a way that it feels as though it has always been a part of the land, as though it grew from the soil itself. The passage tomb is composed of a long, narrow corridor that leads into a small, rounded chamber at the heart of the mound. The passage is just wide enough for a person to move through, and the stones lining the corridor are weathered with time, yet they hold their place with a kind of quiet endurance. What sets Bryn Celli Dhu apart from other megalithic sites is not just its age or its construction, but the aura of mystery that surrounds it. Unlike many other tombs of this period, which are often simple burial chambers, Bryn Celli Dhu appears to have been designed with an almost ritualistic precision. The alignment of the passage is particularly striking. It is oriented so that the light from the rising sun at the midsummer solstice shines directly into the heart of the chamber, illuminating the inner sanctum. This suggests that Bryn Celli Dhu was not merely a tomb, but a place where the celestial and the earthly were linked, a place where time itself could be measured, and where the boundaries between life and death, light and dark, might have been seen as fluid. This connection between the tomb and the heavens is not unique to Bryn Celli Dhu. Across ancient cultures, we see similar alignments: temples, tombs, and sacred sites built with the stars in mind, pointing toward a sophisticated understanding of the cosmos. Yet, the significance of this particular alignment, what it meant to the people who built it, is something we may never fully understand. Why was it important to align the passage with the sun's first light at a specific time of year? Was it simply a way to mark the changing seasons, or was there a deeper spiritual meaning to the way the sun illuminated the tomb? Could the alignment have been intended to guide the spirits of the deceased, allowing them to journey from the realm of the living into the afterlife? As researchers have explored Bryn Celli Dhu, they have uncovered further clues suggesting that it was a site of significant cultural and spiritual importance. The chamber itself contains a large stone, known as the capstone, which is thought to have originally covered the entrance. The capstone, though now displaced, would have been an imposing feature, a stone slab that not only sealed the tomb, but may have symbolized the boundary between this world and the next. Intriguingly, the walls of the passage are lined with intricate carvings, spirals, curves, and patterns that seem to hint at something more than just decorative adornment. Some of these markings appear to have been deliberately chipped into the stone, as if the builders were trying to inscribe something meaningful, something that would endure long after the tomb was completed. But what did these symbols represent? Were they purely decorative, or did they hold a deeper spiritual significance, perhaps a map of the heavens or a coded language of the dead? The carvings, however, remain open to interpretation. Some researchers believe they represent the symbolic journey of the soul, while others suggest they may depict the cycle of life and death, or the transition between the mortal and the divine. Whatever their true meaning, these carvings suggest that the builders of Bryn Celli Dhu had a profound understanding of symbolism and ritual. It was not just a place for the dead, but a gateway to something beyond, a space where the living could commune with the gods, ancestors, or the unseen forces of the universe. Yet, while these explanations remain plausible, there is still much that we don't know. Like many ancient sites, Bryn Celli has been the subject of various speculations and theories over the years. Some suggest that it was used for ancestor worship or as a site for funerary rites, while others argue that it may have been a place of pilgrimage for those seeking spiritual enlightenment or contact with otherworldly forces. But perhaps the most intriguing theory is one that points to the possibility that Bryn Celli was not simply a tomb, but a kind of ritual calendar, a place where the people of that time could mark the cycles of the year and the rhythms of the cosmos. Could the alignment of the tomb with the sun's rays at the solstice have been a form of celestial communication, allowing the people to commune with the gods or the spirits of the dead? Some have even suggested that the passage tomb was a kind of time capsule, a sacred space where knowledge of the stars and the seasons was passed down through generations. Was it a tool for preserving ancient wisdom, or a place where the dead were kept in contact with the living? As we reflect on the mysteries of Bryn Celli, one cannot help but feel that the true purpose of this ancient tomb remains elusive. Its builders, whose culture and beliefs are lost to us, have left behind not just a structure of stone, but a symbol of something deeper, a connection to the cosmos, a reverence for the dead, and a desire to understand the mysteries of life itself. But what were they truly trying to convey with these celestial alignments, these carvings, these rituals? Why was this site so carefully constructed, with such precision, in a time when the tools and knowledge available were far more rudimentary than what we possess today? Perhaps the answer lies not in any one theory or explanation, but in the questions that Bryn Celli raises. The tomb is a place where the past and present meet, a reminder that there are still mysteries in this world that we have yet to solve. The people who built it are gone, but the stones remain, and they continue to whisper their secrets, if only we are willing to listen. What might still be hidden beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered? And what else, in this vast, mysterious world, might we have yet to discover? As we step back from the mist-covered stones of Bryn Celli and return once again to the distant past, we find ourselves in the heart of the ancient world, on the vast plains of present-day Pakistan, at a site known as Mehrgarh. Nestled in the foothills of the Balochistan region, this archaeological site holds some of the earliest evidence of human settlement and complex architecture in South Asia. Mehrgarh, a place where the first seeds of the Indus Valley civilization were planted, is home to an extraordinary body of ancient stone architecture that continues to puzzle and intrigue archaeologists to this day. First discovered in the 1970s, Mehrgarh dates back to around 7000 BC, placing it at the very dawn of the Neolithic period. Unlike many early human settlements, which consisted primarily of simple dwellings and temporary structures, the architecture of Mehrgarh reveals a sophisticated approach to building. The site's stone buildings, some of the earliest examples of such constructions in the world, are marked by carefully arranged mud bricks, intricate floor plans, and evidence of well-developed urban planning. What stands out most about Mehrgarh, however, is the advanced stonework. These structures, crafted with an attention to detail that seems far ahead of their time, raise the question, how could a culture so early in human history possess such knowledge of architecture? Unlike the more rudimentary stone tools typically associated with the Neolithic, the people of Mehrgarh were constructing multi-room houses made from carefully cut stones. These homes were not just built for shelter, they were designed with a clear sense of permanence, suggesting a profound understanding of how to shape and use materials for long-term habitation. Even more remarkable is the fact that these buildings were organized in a grid-like pattern, suggesting that the inhabitants had begun to adopt principles of urban planning long before the rise of major cities like those in Mesopotamia or Egypt. The question arises, why were these people, living thousands of years before the Indus Valley civilization would emerge, building with such advanced techniques? Was it simply a natural progression, as they adapted to new challenges in the environment? Or was there something more to their architectural knowledge, something that we still don't fully understand? As we explore Mehrgarh, the site's enigmatic architecture begins to take on even greater significance. Archaeologists have uncovered evidence of carefully crafted wells, sophisticated drainage systems, and storage spaces designed to house food and other essentials. These features suggest a society that was not only concerned with survival, but with comfort and stability. A society that had reached an advanced stage of social organization. The people of Mehrgarh were not just building for the moment. They were laying the foundations for something much larger. Yet, as with all great ancient mysteries, Mehrgarh raises more questions than it answers. How did these early settlers acquire the skills and knowledge needed to build in such an advanced way? The evidence of stone tools, pottery, and even early metallurgy found at the site hints at a growing understanding of craftsmanship, but it's unclear where this knowledge originated. Some speculate that the builders of Mehrgarh may have been influenced by older, forgotten traditions, perhaps from regions further west or from even more ancient cultures, lost to time. The most curious element of Mehrgarh's architecture, however, is its stone carvings. Intricately detailed reliefs and symbols, often etched into the surfaces of buildings or stones, appear to tell a story that goes beyond mere decoration. The designs include motifs that resemble animals, human figures, and geometric patterns, but there is no consensus on what these carvings signify. Are they simply artistic expressions, or could they be a form of early writing, a visual language that was used to communicate ideas, beliefs, or even sacred knowledge? Some scholars have even suggested that these carvings may be linked to ritual practices, perhaps marking spaces for the living or for the deceased. The most compelling theory about the stonework of Mehrgarh is that it represents an early attempt at a kind of codified knowledge, a visual language that may have been passed down through generations. If this is true, then Mehrgarh could hold the key to understanding how the Indus Valley civilization itself developed its own complex system of writing, which remains undeciphered to this day. Were the people of Mehrgarh experimenting with early forms of symbolic communication long before their successors in the Indus Valley adopted more refined methods of writing? And if so, what might these early symbols tell us about their worldview, their beliefs, and their relationship with the natural world? One of the more speculative theories surrounding Mehrgarh is the idea that the architectural innovations found at the site were not purely the result of trial and error, but rather the outcome of a deeper, more profound understanding of geometry and mathematics. The precise measurements of the stone buildings and the way they were constructed suggest that the builders may have had access to knowledge that we usually associate with much later periods. Could they have been influenced by astronomical or cosmic principles, as we see with other ancient cultures that aligned their buildings with celestial bodies? Was there an ancient, shared understanding of geometry that transcended cultures and time periods? Some fringe theories even go so far as to suggest that the people of Mehrgarh might have had access to knowledge from more advanced, possibly even lost, civilizations. Could there have been a transmission of knowledge between cultures in the distant past? Knowledge that was passed down through secretive or esoteric channels? While there is little evidence to support such claims, the idea that early human societies may have had access to a body of advanced knowledge that has since been forgotten is an intriguing one. Despite the tantalizing clues at Mehrgarh, the site remains a mystery. We know that its inhabitants were among the first to domesticate plants and animals in the region, and that their architecture was ahead of its time. Yet, the true origins of their advanced building techniques, their symbols, and their societal structure remain elusive. What drove the people of Mehrgarh to construct these extraordinary buildings? Was it merely the result of gradual technological advancement, or did they possess knowledge that was more complex, more profound than we can comprehend? As we walk among the ruins of Mehrgarh, we are left with more questions than answers. The site invites us to consider the possibility that the people of this ancient settlement were not simply the forerunners of the Indus Valley civilization, but the bearers of knowledge that could one day reshape our understanding of human history. Could their innovations have been the result of a cultural memory that stretched back to older, forgotten civilizations? Or were they pioneers in their own right, building a world from scratch, in tune with the rhythms of nature and the stars? Perhaps Mehrgarh's greatest mystery lies not just in the stones it left behind, but in what remains hidden, beneath the soil, in forgotten traditions, or even in the very minds of those who built it. What secrets do these early stone structures still hold, waiting for us to uncover them? And what might we learn from the people of Mehrgarh, who lived thousands of years ago, yet whose architectural genius continues to echo across time? As we leave behind the mysteries of Mehrgarh, we shift our focus to another ancient settlement, where the whispers of an early civilization echo through the hills of central Greece. This is the site of Sesklo, a place that, when first uncovered, astonished archaeologists with its revelations about the dawn of complex human society. Nestled in the lush plains of Thessaly, Sesklo holds the distinction of being one of the earliest known examples of a Neolithic settlement in Europe, dating back to around 6000 BC. It offers a rare glimpse into a time when humans were beginning to settle permanently, laying the foundation for the agricultural societies that would soon spread across the continent. Today, Sesklo is a series of low mounds in a quiet rural landscape, a far cry from the bustling, well-planned town it once was. But even in its current state, it's easy to see the signs of its former significance. The remnants of the settlement reveal a carefully organized village with a system of dwellings arranged in clusters, as if each family or group occupied its own defined space within the community. The houses, constructed from a combination of mud bricks and timber, were designed to withstand the elements, their simple yet effective construction techniques reflecting a deep understanding of the materials available to the settlers. What makes Sesklo so fascinating, however, is not just its well-planned architecture, but the nature of the people who built it. Sesklo predates the rise of the more complex, urbanized civilizations that we typically associate with ancient Greece. Yet, its inhabitants seem to have been advanced in ways that challenge our understanding of early Neolithic life. Unlike other contemporary settlements, Sesklo appears to have been a place of both agriculture and artistry, with evidence of pottery, figurines, and other crafted objects suggesting a culture that valued not only survival, but also creativity and symbolism. The people of Sesklo were not merely subsisting. They were beginning to shape their world through art, ritual, and community. The settlement itself is strategically located near fertile river valleys, suggesting that the people of Sesklo had mastered the art of farming. They grew grains, such as wheat and barley, and domesticated animals, which allowed them to stay in one place for extended periods of time. This shift from a nomadic lifestyle to settled farming would eventually lead to the rise of more permanent societies. But the question remains, how did the people of Sesklo come to adopt such an advanced way of life? What drove them to move from temporary shelters to large, well-constructed homes? And what did this change mean for their social organization? One of the most intriguing aspects of Sesklo is its potential role as a model for early urbanization. While Sesklo itself was not a city in the way we think of them today, it shares many characteristics with the first true cities that would emerge later in the ancient world. The settlement's carefully planned layout, its emphasis on community living, and its centrality in an agricultural economy suggest that the people of Sesklo may have been laying the groundwork for the complex urban societies that would follow. But what were the driving forces behind this development? Was it merely a response to population growth and the demands of farming? Or was there a deeper, more deliberate effort to build a structured society? Could Sesklo have been a precursor to the urbanization that would sweep across the ancient Mediterranean in the centuries to come? As we dig deeper into the site, another layer of mystery emerges. In addition to its simple yet effective architecture, Sesklo is marked by a number of unusual features that suggest the settlement may have been a place of ritual or spiritual significance. Archaeologists have uncovered figurines and small sculptures that appear to depict human forms, animals, and abstract designs. These artifacts, while not unique to Sesklo, are significant because they seem to have been deliberately placed in certain areas of the settlement, possibly near the dwellings or in areas that were important for the community's daily life. Were these figurines simply decorative, or did they have a deeper, more symbolic meaning? Some researchers speculate that the figurines could have been used in religious or ritualistic practices, representing gods, ancestors, or even the natural forces that shaped the environment around them. The people of Sesklo may have believed in a spiritual world that was closely intertwined with their daily lives, and these small figurines may have served as representations of the unseen forces they sought to understand and appease. Could Sesklo have been a site where early forms of religious thought began to take shape? Was there a belief in a higher power, or powers that governed the cycles of nature? And if so, what did that belief system look like? Adding to the mystery of Sesklo is the presence of large, decorative pottery found throughout the site. The pottery, much of it adorned with geometric patterns, is highly refined for its time, indicating that the people of Sesklo had developed a sophisticated understanding of art and craftsmanship. These vessels were not merely functional, but also aesthetically pleasing, suggesting that the people of Sesklo placed value on beauty and creativity in addition to survival. But why would a society so focused on agriculture and survival spend so much time perfecting decorative pottery? What did it mean for the people of Sesklo to invest in art and beauty, and how might this reflect their worldview and social structure? While much of what we know about Sesklo comes from its material culture, its buildings, its tools, its art, there is still much that remains unexplained. The settlement is clearly significant, but what role did it play in the broader context of Neolithic Europe? Was it an isolated community, or was it part of a larger network of settlements that shared cultural practices and technological innovations? And what happened to the people of Sesklo after the settlement was abandoned? Did they move on to other regions, or was their way of life gradually absorbed into the cultures that followed? Perhaps one of the most intriguing aspects of Sesklo is the possibility that its people were not simply pioneers of agriculture and settlement, but early visionaries who were trying to shape their environment and society in ways that went beyond mere survival. Could they have been laying the groundwork for the great civilizations of ancient Greece? Were they, in some way, the unacknowledged forebears of the ideas and values that would later flourish in the classical world? As we step back and reflect on the legacy of Sesklo, we are left with more questions than answers. What did the people of Sesklo truly believe? What drove them to create such a sophisticated settlement at such an early date? Were they simply responding to the needs of agriculture? Or were they reaching for something greater, something beyond the immediate demands of survival? And, perhaps most intriguingly, what might still lie hidden beneath the soil of Sesklo, waiting to reveal its secrets to those who are willing to search? The answers remain elusive, but the mystery of Sesklo continues to beckon, inviting us to look deeper into the origins of human society. As we leave behind the quiet agricultural rhythms of Sesklo and shift our focus eastward, another ancient site unfolds before us, shrouded in mystery. This is Sisupalgarh, an ancient settlement located in the eastern part of India, near the modern-day city of Bhubaneswar in Odisha. Although often overshadowed by its more famous contemporaries, such as the ancient cities of Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, Sisupalgarh holds within its walls one of the most fascinating proto-urban mysteries of the early Indian subcontinent. Its Proto-Phase, dating back to around 600 BC, offers an intriguing glimpse into a culture whose origins and influences still elude modern archaeologists. Sisupalgarh today is a sprawling expanse of earthen mounds and crumbling walls, but in its prime, it would have been a bustling, fortified city, its streets lined with carefully constructed buildings, and its citizens engaged in the life of a thriving urban center. Unlike many of the prehistoric settlements we have encountered so far, the scale of Sisupalgarh suggests a society that was not only capable of building advanced fortifications, but also of developing systems of governance, trade, and perhaps even early forms of writing. Yet, despite the obvious sophistication of the site, much of its purpose, function, and eventual decline remains enigmatic. When you first approach the site of Sisupalgarh, you are struck by its impressive fortifications, massive earthworks that encircle the settlement, with a network of defensive walls and ditches still visible in places. The walls, though no longer standing tall, were once made of mud and timber, and would have provided protection for a large and prosperous city. The very act of constructing such elaborate fortifications raises questions. What threat did Sisupalgarh face, and why was such a defense system necessary? Could it have been involved in conflict, or were these walls meant to symbolize power and control over the surrounding region? The city's layout reveals further signs of advanced planning, with a grid-like arrangement of streets and carefully designed sectors, suggesting that its builders had some degree of urban vision. In many ways, Sisupalgarh shares characteristics with early cities of the ancient world, including those found in Mesopotamia and the Indus Valley. The presence of large open spaces within the city, possibly for public gatherings, and a network of streets that suggests a level of organization previously thought to be exclusive to larger urban centers, makes it an archaeological enigma. Was Sisupalgarh an early precursor to the large cities that would later dominate the region, or was it a distinct and separate model of urbanization? The significance of Sisupalgarh's proto-phase is further highlighted by the discovery of numerous artifacts scattered throughout the site. Pottery shards, tools, and decorative items have been found, many of which point to a well-established society with a rich cultural life. But perhaps most intriguing are the signs of trade. Evidence of imported materials such as copper and terracotta, along with traces of distant connections, suggest that Sisupalgarh was not an isolated settlement. The settlement's strategic location, near the banks of the Mahanadi River, would have allowed it to function as a hub for regional trade networks, connecting the hinterlands to distant parts of the subcontinent and even beyond. The question remains, what drove the people of Sisupalgarh to become such prolific traders? Were they seeking goods to enrich their society, or were there deeper, more complex motives at play? In addition to its trade and material culture, the site of Sisupalgarh is notable for its potential connection to the early development of social and political systems. Excavations have revealed evidence of a public space, possibly a central courtyard or open area, that may have been used for communal activities. This suggests that the city was not only a center of trade, but also a place of social interaction, where decisions may have been made collectively. The presence of a defensive wall around the settlement may imply that the people of Sisupalgarh were organizing themselves not just against external threats, but also in the face of internal social dynamics. Were these walls, perhaps, a response to social unrest or competition between rival groups? What sets Sisupalgarh apart from other ancient settlements, however, is the mystery of its origins and its eventual decline. Some scholars believe that the site was part of a broader cultural and political landscape that included the rise of the early kingdoms of the Kalinga region, which would later flourish in the centuries following Sisupalgarh's abandonment. But the precise nature of its inhabitants remains unclear. Were they the precursors to the Kalinga kingdom, or were they part of a completely different cultural group? The lack of written records only adds to the uncertainty. There is also the question of why Sisupalgarh was eventually abandoned. The settlement's fortifications and urban infrastructure suggest a thriving society, one capable of sustaining a large population and engaging in trade and warfare. But by around 400 BC, the city seems to have been largely deserted. Some archaeologists argue that the decline was the result of shifting trade routes or changes in the political landscape. Could the river systems, once so vital to the settlement's prosperity, have shifted over time, making Sisupalgarh less strategically advantageous? Others speculate that the collapse may have been caused by internal factors, perhaps a breakdown in social order, a collapse of trade, or a shift in power dynamics that led to the city's downfall. Yet, as we examine the remains of Sisupalgarh, there is a growing sense that something more elusive may be at play. The fortifications are impressive, but they also seem to point to a society that may have been more concerned with controlling and protecting its citizens than one that simply existed for trade or agriculture. Was Sisupalgarh truly a city-state, or was it something else entirely? Could it have been a political or religious center, a focal point for a group whose identity and influence have been lost to history? Moreover, some fringe theories suggest that the proto-phase of Sisupalgarh may have been part of a larger cultural movement in the ancient world, one that spread ideas, technologies, and social practices across vast distances. Could the defensive walls, the advanced urban planning, and the trade networks point to a broader cultural connection between Sisupalgarh and other early settlements across the globe? Was Sisupalgarh part of a forgotten chapter in the early history of human civilization, an early stage in the development of what would later become the complex societies of the Indian subcontinent and beyond? As we step back and reflect on the legacy of Sisupalgarh, we are left with more questions than answers. The settlement's impressive fortifications, advanced urban planning, and cultural richness are undeniable, yet so much about it remains hidden in the mists of time. The people who built Sisupalgarh were clearly sophisticated and engaged in complex social, political, and economic systems, but their true story is lost to us. Were they the pioneers of a cultural renaissance in the ancient world, or did they simply represent an isolated society that ultimately vanished? As archaeologists continue to study the site, Sisupalgarh beckons us to look deeper, into its walls, its artifacts, and its very foundations. What mysteries still lie buried beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered? As we leave the enigmatic walls of Sisupalgarh behind and journey further into the uncharted realms of the ancient world, we now find ourselves in the dense jungles of the Mexican lowlands, where another extraordinary discovery quietly waits to be explored. This is Aguada Fénix, an ancient ceremonial site that is only now beginning to reveal the secrets of a forgotten civilization. Hidden beneath the canopy of verdant trees in the southern Yucatan Peninsula, Aguada Fénix is home to a massive complex of platforms, terraces, and monumental earthworks, whose significance has baffled archaeologists since their discovery. What was the true purpose of this colossal site, and why has it remained so elusive for so long? At first glance, Aguada Fénix appears to be a landscape of undisturbed jungle, a seemingly unremarkable stretch of land covered by thick foliage. Yet, beneath this wild exterior lies one of the largest and oldest Maya structures ever discovered. The site consists of a sprawling platform, measuring over 1,400 feet in length, and is thought to date back to around 1000 BC, making it older than many of the more famous Maya cities such as Tikal and Palenque. The platform, made of earth and stone, is arranged in a complex series of terraces, pyramids, and flat plazas, suggesting that it was designed with an immense sense of scale and purpose. What we are left to wonder, however, is not just who built Aguada Fénix, but why they constructed such a grand, seemingly ceremonial complex in the heart of the jungle. The site itself is striking in its enormity. The central platform is so large that it could easily house several modern stadiums, yet its original purpose remains a subject of intense debate. Its vast size and carefully planned layout suggest that it was not simply a utilitarian structure, but a place of profound significance, perhaps a ceremonial center, a gathering point for ritualistic practices, or even a place where powerful elites once held sway. What remains perplexing is that, unlike the more well-known Maya cities, Aguada Fénix doesn't seem to fit the typical pattern of urban development. There are no grand temples, no intricate palaces, and no obvious signs of a permanent, densely populated city. Instead, the site seems to have been designed with the idea of space, vast, open spaces, that might have been used for ritualistic purposes, for trade, or even for large-scale public events. But what was the true nature of these events? Who gathered here, and for what reasons? While archaeologists agree that Aguada Fénix was built by the Maya civilization, its precise role in the broader context of Maya history remains unclear. The site predates the so-called classic Maya period by centuries, yet it exhibits many of the hallmarks of later Maya culture. The complex platform architecture, which is characteristic of later Maya cities, suggests that the builders of Aguada Fénix were experimenting with ideas that would later become central to Maya urban planning. Some researchers speculate that this early phase of Maya civilization may have been a testing ground for architectural and social innovations that would later find full expression in the great cities of the lowlands. Could Aguada Fénix have been the seed from which later Maya cities sprouted, or was it something entirely different? A completely unique expression of Maya culture that never fully developed into a city-state? Adding another layer of intrigue to the site is the mystery of its abandonment. Unlike the grand cities of the Maya, which flourished for centuries before eventually falling into decline, Aguada Fénix was seemingly abandoned long before the height of Maya civilization. The reasons behind its sudden desertion are unclear. Some suggest that the abandonment may have been due to environmental factors, such as soil degradation or deforestation, which were common problems faced by early agricultural societies. Others point to the possibility of internal conflict or shifting political dynamics. Was the site's grandeur too much to maintain, or did the people of Aguada Fénix simply move on to new centers of power and influence? Could Aguada Fénix have been an experiment that, for reasons unknown, never became the epicenter of the Maya world as we know it today? In the absence of written records or more detailed archaeological evidence, many of these questions remain speculative. Yet, one of the most fascinating aspects of Aguada Fénix is the possibility that it was connected to a broader network of ceremonial centers. The Maya are known for their intricate web of trade routes, pilgrimage paths, and intercity relations, and it is possible that Aguada Fénix served as a major node in this network. Did the site function as a place for intercommunal rituals, where people from various Maya communities came together to celebrate their shared beliefs? If so, what were these beliefs, and how did they shape the site's monumental architecture? One of the most intriguing features of Aguada Fénix is the arrangement of its platforms. Unlike the more typical pyramidal structures found in later Maya cities, the platforms at Aguada Fénix are largely horizontal, sprawling across the landscape in wide, elongated shapes. This suggests a different approach to ceremonial space, one that might have been designed to accommodate large groups of people in a more communal setting. Could the site have been intended for large-scale gatherings or ritual events that required expansive spaces? Or was it a more intimate place, designed for smaller, more private ceremonies? Some speculate that the unique architectural style of Aguada Fénix reflects a shift in Maya religious practices, a move away from the strictly hierarchical temple-centered rituals toward more communal forms of worship. If this is the case, then Aguada Fénix might represent an early stage in the development of Maya religious thought, one that eventually gave way to the more familiar pyramids and temples of later periods. Despite the excitement surrounding its discovery, the mystery of Aguada Fénix is far from being solved. There is still so much about the site that remains hidden, waiting to be uncovered. While the scale of the site suggests that it was an important place for the early Maya, its exact function remains elusive. Was it a ceremonial center? A gathering place for trade and diplomacy? Or perhaps a unique cultural experiment that never fully realized its potential? As researchers continue to excavate and analyze the site, It becomes clear that Aguada Fénix is not just another archaeological discovery. It is a window into a period of Maya history that we have barely begun to understand. The question that looms over Aguada Fénix is one that spans all of ancient history. What stories have been lost to time, and what mysteries still remain hidden beneath the earth? The monumental platform, its vast, open spaces, and its intricate design speak to a culture that was experimenting with ideas and practices that we are only beginning to understand. And as we look closer, we must ask ourselves, what if the true purpose of Aguada Fénix is still buried somewhere in the jungle, waiting for the next generation of explorers to uncover its secrets? For now, Aguada Fénix remains an enigma, a silent testament to a civilization that, for reasons still unknown, chose to build on a scale that was far ahead of its time. As we move forward in our exploration, we cannot help but wonder, what other ancient sites, hidden in plain sight, still wait to challenge our understanding of the past? What secrets have yet to be revealed in the shadows of forgotten ruins, and what might we discover if we are willing to look deeper? As we leave behind the vast and enigmatic platform of Aguada Fénix, we find ourselves moving westward, toward the Mediterranean island of Cyprus, where another ancient mystery quietly awaits. In the heart of this sun-drenched island, nestled on a hill overlooking the fertile plains of the Khirokitia Valley, lies the archaeological site of Khirokitia. Here, amidst the remains of long-abandoned stone houses, we encounter a civilization whose origins and purpose remain shrouded in the mists of time. The Khirokitia structures are among the best-preserved Neolithic dwellings in the eastern Mediterranean, yet they continue to defy easy explanation. Khirokitia was a settlement built around 7000 BC, a time when the first humans were making the shift from nomadic to settled life, embracing agriculture, and beginning to build permanent homes. The settlement's most striking feature is its circular, stone-built houses, which rise from the earth like ancient beehives, their rounded walls and low ceilings giving them a uniquely organic appearance. At first glance, the settlement appears simple, a series of interconnected structures arranged in a roughly circular pattern. But as we move closer and observe the intricacies of the design, we are forced to ask, what did this layout mean for the people who built it, and how did they understand the world around them? The houses at Khirokitia are constructed from large limestone blocks, which were carefully shaped and stacked to form the walls. Inside each dwelling, evidence of basic hearths and storage pits suggests a relatively modest way of life, focused on subsistence farming and animal husbandry. Yet, the site is far from ordinary. The sheer scale of the settlement and the degree of planning involved raise questions about its social and organizational complexity. Unlike other contemporary Neolithic villages, Khirokitia seems to have been more than just a group of people living together for practical reasons. The careful placement of the houses, the use of stone rather than more easily available materials like mud or wood, and the consistent design all suggest that this was a planned community, one with a sense of purpose and intent that we are only beginning to understand. What stands out most about Khirokitia, however, is its remarkable level of organization. The houses are arranged in clusters, forming streets and open spaces that suggest a coherent urban planning strategy. This type of layout is unusual for the time, as most Neolithic settlements were not built with such forethought. The presence of defensive walls surrounding the settlement further complicates the picture. Was Khirokitia a fortified settlement, or were the walls primarily symbolic? Were they meant to protect the inhabitants from external threats, or were they part of a broader effort to control the space within, to define the limits of the community in a more metaphysical sense? These questions remain unanswered, but the walls, which once enclosed the settlement, continue to prompt speculation. Why was it necessary for the people of Khirokitia to build such defensive structures so early in human history? The inhabitants of Khirokitia were also skilled artisans, and the site has yielded a wealth of artifacts that offer further insights into their lives. Pottery, tools, and decorative items provide evidence of a culture that was not merely concerned with survival, but was also capable of producing objects of beauty and significance. The pottery at Khirokitia is particularly intriguing, as it often features intricate designs that suggest symbolic or ritualistic significance. Could the people of Khirokitia have been using these objects in spiritual or ceremonial contexts? Was there a religious or cosmological understanding that governed the construction of the settlement and the artifacts found within it? Another mystery surrounding Khirokitia is its sudden and unexplained abandonment. By around 3000 BC, the settlement was left empty, its houses abandoned, and its once thriving community dispersed. There are no clear indications as to why the settlement was deserted, no signs of warfare, natural disasters, or other catastrophic events. Did the people of Khirokitia simply outgrow their settlement, moving on to more fertile lands or to different regions? Or did the social or environmental conditions in the area change in ways that led to the community's collapse? The abrupt nature of the abandonment has led some to speculate that the settlement's decline may have been tied to factors that remain hidden in the archaeological record. Could there have been internal strife, a breakdown in social order, or perhaps a shift in trade or agricultural practices that rendered Khirokitia no longer viable? What is perhaps most captivating about Khirokitia, however, is its potential connection to broader patterns in early human civilization. The settlement's strategic placement, its circular architectural design, and its fortifications suggest that the people of Khirokitia were not isolated, but were part of a wider cultural or trade network that spanned the eastern Mediterranean. Evidence of trade links with other contemporary cultures in the region, such as the early inhabitants of Crete and Anatolia, raises intriguing possibilities. Could Khirokitia have served as a bridge between the emerging agricultural societies of the Near East and those of the Mediterranean? Were the people of Khirokitia sharing ideas, technologies, or religious practices with their neighbors? And if so, what influence did they have on the wider cultural landscape? There is also the tantalizing question of the people's origins. Khirokitia is one of the earliest known settlements in Cyprus, but the question of where its inhabitants came from remains unresolved. Some scholars suggest that the people of Khirokitia were among the first settlers of Cyprus, arriving from the mainland of Asia Minor or the Levant, while others propose that they may have been indigenous to the island itself. The absence of written records and the limited amount of physical evidence make it difficult to determine their origins with any certainty. Could Khirokitia have been home to a distinct cultural group whose identity has been lost to time? Or did the settlement represent a melting pot of people from different regions and cultures, all converging on this fertile island in the heart of the Mediterranean? And then there is the more speculative question. Could Khirokitia have been part of a broader, mysterious pattern of ancient civilizations that we have yet to fully uncover? The settlement's advanced urban planning, its use of stone construction, and its connections to other early Mediterranean cultures suggest that it may have been part of an ancient global network, one whose influence has been obscured by time. Was Khirokitia a part of a larger, forgotten civilization whose knowledge and innovations laid the groundwork for later cultures such as the Minoans or the Mycenaeans? Could it have been a precursor to these later, more well-known societies? Or was it an entirely different and unique cultural experiment? As we reflect on the remains of Khirokitia, we are reminded of the questions that continue to elude us. The settlement's perfectly arranged houses, its sophisticated architecture, and its unexplained abandonment suggest a culture that was far ahead of its time, one whose mysteries have yet to be fully unraveled. What drove the people of Khirokitia to build such a carefully planned settlement, and why did they leave it behind? What secrets lie buried in the earth, waiting for future archaeologists to uncover? And perhaps most intriguing of all, what other forgotten settlements like Khirokitia remain hidden from our view, waiting to challenge our understanding of the ancient world? As we move forward in our exploration, Khirokitia remains a compelling enigma, a reminder that the past is often more mysterious and more complex than we can imagine. As we leave the enigmatic circular homes of Khirokitia, we now turn our attention westward, toward the rugged cliffs and windswept shores of the Aran Islands off the west coast of Ireland. Here, atop the towering precipice of Dún Aengus, we encounter a structure that has both fascinated and mystified archaeologists and historians for centuries. Dún Aengus is not simply a fort. Its sheer scale, location, and the questions surrounding its purpose have made it a topic of intrigue, its ancient stones whispering a tale that no one seems able to fully decipher. Who built Dún Aengus, and why? What does its extraordinary design reveal about the ancient people who constructed it, and what, if anything, did they intend to communicate through such an imposing and seemingly mysterious structure? Dún Aengus stands on the edge of a sheer cliff, its fortifications gazing out over the wild Atlantic Ocean. The fort's construction is a breathtaking feat of ancient engineering, an almost vertical drop of hundreds of feet to the crashing waves below, with no natural protection but the cliffs themselves. It's as if the very fort was built to exist on the precipice, suspended between the land and the sea, untouched by the world below. The walls of Dún Aengus are built with large, uncut stones, arranged in concentric circles that form defensive barriers, one inside the other, each wall narrowing toward the summit of the fort. This seemingly simple design, composed of dry stonework without the use of mortar, evokes a sense of timelessness, as if the structure has stood for millennia without change. And yet, despite its imposing presence, the purpose of the fort and its role within the society that built it remain questions for which no definitive answers exist. Archaeological evidence suggests that Dún Aengus was constructed during the late Bronze Age, around 1100 BC, though it may have been in use as late as the early Christian period, some 1,000 years later. This long span of occupation speaks to the fort's enduring importance to the people who lived on the island. Yet the significance of its location, atop a rocky cliff, far removed from any natural resources such as fresh water or fertile land, complicates the picture. Why build such an enormous fort at such a difficult and isolated location? Was Dún Aengus primarily a defensive structure, or did it serve other, more symbolic purposes? Was it a place of power for an elite few, or did it function as a communal gathering space for the entire community? The fort's layout provides some clues, yet many remain elusive. The walls are not simply defensive. The complex arrangement of structures within the fort's confines suggests that it may have been more than just a military stronghold. There is evidence of multiple interior chambers, which some believe could have served as living quarters or storage rooms. The entrance to Dún Aengus is narrow and heavily fortified, requiring anyone seeking entry to navigate a precarious pathway, which may have been intentionally designed to deter attackers or outsiders. These design elements point to a place that was carefully considered for both defense and ritual. Perhaps it was a sanctuary, a place of sacred importance, or even a residence for an elite class with the power to control the surrounding lands and waters. Could the fort have been a statement of power? A place designed not just to defend, but to project authority over the people and landscape beneath it. Adding further complexity to this picture is the fort's possible connection to other ancient structures found across the British Isles and Europe. Some scholars believe that Dún Aengus may have been part of a larger network of prehistoric hill forts, whose purpose was both defensive and symbolic. The very nature of these hill forts, constructed on high ground, often with commanding views of the surrounding landscape, suggests that they were more than simple military outposts. Were they constructed as places of worship, as centers of political power, or as strategic locations for controlling trade routes? It is entirely possible that Dún Aengus was not a standalone fortification, but part of a broader cultural phenomenon that spanned the islands and beyond, reflecting shared traditions, beliefs, and practices. Some have speculated that Dún Aengus was built as a ceremonial site, a location that held deep spiritual significance for its creators. The fort's positioning, at the edge of the world, overlooking the endless expanse of ocean, lends itself to such a theory. Was the fort a symbolic gateway between the land and the spiritual realm, a place where the living could communicate with the gods, or where the dead were honored and remembered? The location of Dún Aengus also offers another tantalizing possibility, that it was designed to align with specific celestial events. Could the layout of the fort have been intended to track the movement of the sun or stars, marking important moments in the annual cycle? The idea that ancient peoples embedded their sacred sites within the natural world, aligning them with celestial bodies, is a concept seen throughout other cultures, from the megalithic sites of Stonehenge to the sacred temples of ancient Egypt. Was Dún Aengus part of this broader tradition of building structures in harmony with the natural world? As we look at the remains of Dún Aengus today, it is impossible to ignore the sense of awe it evokes. Standing atop the walls of the fort, with the wind in your hair and the ocean stretching out endlessly before you, it is easy to imagine the people who once called this place home. Their lives must have been shaped by the landscape, by the fierce winds, the isolation, and the constant presence of the sea. But there are still so many unanswered questions. How did the people of Dún Aengus live day to day, and how did they sustain themselves in such a barren location? The island's arid climate, combined with the lack of fresh water sources, suggests that survival here would have been challenging, and yet the fort's construction and the apparent sophistication of the society that built it point to a level of organization and foresight that is remarkable. One of the most enduring mysteries of Dún Aengus is its abandonment. By the early centuries A.D., the fort had been largely abandoned, though the exact reasons for its desertion remain unclear. Was the fort simply no longer needed, as the people moved on to new locations or formed different types of settlements? Or were there more profound, possibly catastrophic reasons for the fort's decline? Some have suggested that the fort's abandonment could have been linked to the changing tides of power and politics, or even to environmental factors like climate change or resource depletion. But without further evidence, these ideas remain speculative. Perhaps the greatest mystery surrounding Dún Aengus is the absence of written records. The people who built the fort left no inscriptions, no tablets, and no clear indications of their identity or purpose. All that remains are the stones, silent witnesses to a time long past. What we are left with is a structure that seems to transcend time, offering a glimpse into the distant past without providing us with any definitive answers. What was Dún Aengus really for? Who built it, and why? And why, after so many centuries, do these questions still elude us? As we continue our journey into the ancient world, Dún Aengus stands as a reminder of the mysteries that remain, waiting to be uncovered by those who are willing to look, to question, and to imagine. What secrets does this ancient fort hold beneath its wind-swept stones, and what might we still have to learn from its silence? The answers, if they exist, are still buried in the earth, and perhaps some mysteries are meant to remain unsolved, inviting us to keep searching. Leaving the cliff-edge fort of Dún Aengus behind, we now turn to the highlands of Peru, where another mysterious structure beckons from the depths of the Andean mountains. Here, tucked away in the lush valley of the Huánuco region, lies the archaeological site of Kotosh, an ancient place whose enigmatic stone architecture has confounded archaeologists for decades. As we approach this sacred site, we are struck not only by the natural beauty of the surroundings, green hills, the rush of nearby rivers, and the towering mountains, but by the eerie sense that we are standing before something much older, something whose purpose remains as elusive as the mist that often shrouds the region. Kotosh is best known for its temple complex, a structure built primarily from large, meticulously placed stones. The most famous feature of Kotosh is the Temple of the Crossed Hands, a small but striking stone chamber that contains two carved stone hands positioned in an enigmatic X shape. This seemingly simple yet profoundly symbolic arrangement of hands has baffled researchers for years. Why would the ancient builders of Kotosh choose to display this gesture so prominently? What did it represent to them? The hands appear to be both a religious and artistic expression, an image captured in stone to convey a deeper meaning, but the precise nature of that meaning remains elusive. What is certain is that the Temple of the Crossed Hands is a powerful marker of something far beyond mere architecture, perhaps a symbol, a ritual, or even a sacred vow made by the people of Kotosh to the forces they believed controlled the land, the sky, and their very existence. The Kotosh site itself is far older than it might first appear. Dating back to approximately 2000 BC, it is one of the earliest examples of monumental architecture in the Andean region, predating many of the civilizations for which the Andes are more commonly known, such as the Inca. The people who built Kotosh are not well documented in the historical record, and there are no surviving written accounts that tell us their story. Archaeologists and historians have long speculated about their origins, their culture, and their reasons for choosing this specific location for their sacred site. The construction of the temple, though advanced for its time, shows signs of careful thought and organization. The stones used in its construction were not merely piled together but placed with precision and care, suggesting a well-developed understanding of architecture and engineering. Was this an isolated community, or did the builders of Kotosh have connections to other ancient cultures in the Andes? Did they share ideas, trade goods, or participate in a broader spiritual or political network? As we look closer at the Temple of the Crossed Hands, we are faced with a riddle. What does the X symbol mean in the context of Andean religion? Some researchers believe that the crossed hands are a representation of duality, two opposing forces that are both in conflict and harmony, much like the natural world itself. In Andean cosmology, duality is a recurring theme, where opposite forces, such as light and dark, life and death, male and female, exist in a constant dynamic balance. Could the hands represent a divine balance of forces, a gesture that reflects the ancient understanding of the universe's cosmic order? Alternatively, others have suggested that the crossed hands may be symbolic of a connection between the human and the divine, an offering, a prayer, or a request for divine intervention or protection. The significance of these hands, whether as a religious symbol or as an artistic expression, remains a subject of much debate. Perhaps the hands represent something more personal, a gesture intended to communicate with the gods or with ancestors, or maybe they are a marker of a long-lost tradition that we are only beginning to understand. Adding another layer of intrigue to the Kotosh site is its connection to a broader Andean tradition of ceremonial centers. The use of stone and the incorporation of symbolic gestures are not unique to Kotosh, but the complexity and scale of its construction suggest that it may have been a focal point for the early religious and cultural practices of the region. Was Kotosh part of a larger network of ceremonial sites, each with its own specific role in the spiritual and social life of ancient Andean peoples? Were these places interconnected by pilgrimage routes, trade networks, or shared religious practices? It is possible that the site of Kotosh played a role in shaping the subsequent cultures of the Andes, including the Moche, the Nazca, and the Inca. While these later civilizations are more well known, Kotosh could represent an earlier chapter in Andean history, a precursor to the monumental structures and grand temples of the Inca Empire. Yet, there is still much about Kotosh that we do not know. The site's ceremonial purpose is clear, but what did it look like in its prime? What rituals or ceremonies were performed within the stone walls of the temple? And what significance did the crossed hands hold within these sacred spaces? Archaeological evidence suggests that the site was once far larger than it appears today, with additional structures that may have served as living quarters or other ceremonial spaces. Was this a single-family temple, or did it serve as the center of a larger community, possibly one with regional or even pan-Andean influence? The fact that there are no clear records of who built Kotosh or why it was constructed only deepens the mystery. The site's eventual abandonment, like that of many ancient places, is equally enigmatic. Why did the people of Kotosh leave such a carefully built, sacred space? Did environmental factors, such as soil depletion or shifting climate patterns, force them to relocate? Or did a change in religious or political leadership render the site obsolete? Was there a moment in time when the community chose to abandon the old ways, leaving behind their stone temples and sacred symbols in favor of something entirely new? These questions remain unanswered, and the possibility that we may never fully know the answers adds a layer of mystery to an already intriguing site. What is undeniable is that Kotosh represents a moment in time when the people of the Andes were laying the foundations for the great civilizations that would follow. The Temple of the Crossed Hands, with its intricate symbolism and masterful construction, is a testament to the deep spiritual and architectural sophistication of its builders. But as we study this ancient site, we are left with one burning question. What might still lie hidden within the stones of Kotosh? What secrets might be uncovered in the future, as new technologies and research methods shed light on this mysterious place? The hands are crossed, the stones remain, and the enigma endures, inviting future generations to ask the same questions we do today. What was Kotosh, and what can it still teach us about the ancient world? Leaving behind the enigmatic ruins of Kotosh, we now journey eastward, toward the vast desert landscapes of Jordan, where another mystery lies hidden beneath the sands, a site that has captivated archaeologists and researchers for decades. Here, in the arid wilderness of southern Jordan, we find the ancient site of Beidha, a settlement that dates back to the pre-pottery Neolithic period, around 7000 BC. At first glance, Beidha might seem like just another ancient settlement, its stone foundations barely visible beneath the dust of centuries. But as we begin to look more closely, we are drawn to a series of unique stone platforms that rise from the earth like the remnants of some forgotten ritual, their purpose still shrouded in uncertainty. The Beidha stone platforms are scattered across the site, often arranged in linear or circular patterns that suggest intentional design. Constructed from large, roughly hewn stones, these platforms stand out as some of the most mysterious and significant features of the settlement. While similar structures can be found at other Neolithic sites in the region, what makes Beidha particularly intriguing is the scale and complexity of these stone formations. They are too large and too meticulously placed to be mere functional elements of everyday life. These are not just simple storage platforms or foundations for dwellings. There is something about their arrangement and their size that hints at a more profound purpose, one that may have been tied to religious or ceremonial practices. Some of the platforms at Beidha are raised several feet off the ground, suggesting that they may have been used for more than just storage or practical functions. Were these platforms meant to elevate offerings, to house sacred objects, or to serve as altars for rituals? Given the prominence of these structures within the settlement, it seems likely that they played a central role in the daily lives of the people who lived here. But the question remains: what were the platforms intended for, and why were they constructed with such care? The stone platforms are not the only mysterious feature of Beidha. As we look further into the site, we begin to uncover evidence of a culture that was both advanced and deeply connected to the natural world. The people of Beidha were among the first to transition from a nomadic existence to a settled lifestyle, engaging in early agriculture and animal domestication. They cultivated cereals like barley and wheat and raised animals such as goats and sheep. Yet despite these practical advancements, there is an undeniable sense that something more was at work here. A sense that the people of Beidha understood the world in ways that transcend mere survival. The Beidha settlement is often associated with the broader Natufian culture, a group of early human societies that occupied parts of the Levant and the Arabian Peninsula during the Epipaleolithic and early Neolithic periods. The Natufians are known for their pioneering advances in agriculture and their sophisticated stone tools, but it is their religious and spiritual practices that have captivated the imaginations of modern scholars. Could the people of Beidha have been part of this same cultural tradition? Did they share similar beliefs about the forces of nature, the gods, and the afterlife? The stone platforms might offer a clue. One of the most compelling aspects of the Beidha stone platforms is the possibility that they were constructed as part of a larger, interconnected system of ritualistic or cosmological significance. Some researchers have speculated that the arrangement of the platforms could be tied to celestial events, perhaps aligned with the movement of the sun, moon, or stars. Could the platforms have been used as observation points or ceremonial spaces for tracking the changing seasons, marking the solstices or aligning with constellations? Such a theory would not be out of place in the ancient world, where many cultures built structures that were designed to correspond with the heavens, as we see with sites like Stonehenge or the pyramids of Egypt. This possibility raises another intriguing question. Was Beidha a precursor to more complex religious or astronomical traditions that would later flourish in the ancient Near East? The notion that the people of Beidha might have been some of the first to conceptualize the cosmos in this way is not entirely speculative. Archaeological evidence from other sites in the Levant and beyond suggests that early human societies had a profound awareness of the cycles of the natural world and the movements of the celestial bodies. If the people of Beidha were aware of such patterns, could the stone platforms have been used as part of rituals to honor these forces, to track time, or even to mark significant cosmic events? Yet, even with these speculative theories in mind, there remains much that we cannot explain about Beidha. One of the most puzzling aspects of the stone platforms is their seemingly random distribution across the site. While some platforms are arranged in neat, organized clusters, others appear to be scattered without any discernible pattern. This raises the question, were the platforms part of a larger, organized system that we have yet to fully understand? Or were they constructed by different groups within the settlement, each with its own purpose or meaning? Did the platforms serve as individual markers of personal or familial significance? Or were they meant to be experienced as part of a larger communal ritual? The mystery deepens further when we consider the fact that the Beidha settlement was eventually abandoned around 6000 BC, leaving behind little more than the stone remnants of its once thriving community. Why did the people of Beidha leave this carefully constructed settlement behind? Did they face a sudden environmental shift, a change in resources, or a conflict that forced them to relocate? Or did the abandonment of the site have more to do with shifts in social, religious, or political structures? The unanswered questions surrounding the site's sudden desertion only add to the sense of mystery that clings to Beidha. Adding to the intrigue is the fact that the stone platforms at Beidha are not the only mysterious stone structures found in the region. Similar platforms have been uncovered at other sites across the Levant and the Arabian Peninsula, often with similar characteristics, raised, carefully constructed, and seemingly devoid of clear functional purpose. Are these structures part of a larger tradition of stone building, one that spread across the ancient world as human societies began to transition from nomadic to sedentary lifestyles? Or could they represent something more? An early form of monumental architecture, built to communicate with the gods, to reflect the changing nature of the cosmos, or to honor some long-forgotten cultural or spiritual belief. What we are left with, as we contemplate the stone platforms at Beidha, are more questions than answers. These ancient structures, so carefully constructed and so purposefully arranged, speak to a people whose understanding of the world was rich and complex, yet whose rituals and beliefs remain hidden from us. We may never fully know the answers to the mysteries of Beidha. Was it a center of early religion and ritual, a place where the celestial and the earthly met? Or was it simply a settlement whose cultural significance has been lost to time? As we walk among the stone platforms, we are reminded that some mysteries of the ancient world may always remain beyond our grasp. The stones have survived the passage of time, but the meaning behind them has not. What is it that still lies beneath the sand at Beidha, waiting to be uncovered? And how much more of the ancient world's secrets might we still have yet to uncover? Only time will tell, as we continue to search for answers, one stone at a time. As we leave behind the windswept desert landscapes of Beidha, we journey westward, across the high Andes of Ecuador, where another ancient mystery awaits. Here, nestled in the valley of Cañar, we encounter the Ingapirca complex, one of the most significant and enigmatic archaeological sites in South America. Known primarily for its impressive Cañari and Inca structures, Ingapirca is often regarded as a focal point of Andean culture, where two distinct civilizations converged and left their mark on the land. But beyond the towering Inca temples and ceremonial platforms, there lies another layer of the site, one that has yet to fully reveal its secrets: the lesser structures of Ingapirca. The lesser structures, scattered around the main temple and plaza, are often overshadowed by the more famous and monumental Inca architecture, yet they are no less intriguing. These smaller buildings and enclosures, constructed from precisely cut stones, seem to serve no immediately obvious function. Some are circular, others rectangular, and some appear to have been built with great care and attention to detail. Yet their purpose remains unclear. Were they homes, storage spaces, or ceremonial structures? Did they have an astronomical or spiritual significance that we are yet to fully understand? Or are they simply a reflection of the evolving architectural techniques of the Cañari people, who inhabited the site long before the Inca arrived? The Ingapirca complex is thought to have been constructed in phases, with the Cañari people laying the foundations of the settlement around 1000 BC, long before the Inca civilization rose to prominence in the 15th century AD. The site was later expanded and modified by the Inca, who incorporated Cañari structures into their own architectural designs, blending two distinct cultural influences. But while much has been learned about the Inca buildings, the lesser structures of Ingapirca remain shrouded in mystery. One of the most curious features of these smaller structures is their unusual alignment. Unlike typical Inca architecture, which often adheres to strict geometric patterns and cardinal directions, the lesser structures at Ingapirca appear to be oriented in a more irregular fashion. Some face specific natural features of the landscape, such as nearby hills or valleys, while others align with the sun's movements during certain times of the year. This has led some researchers to speculate that the Cañari people, long before the Inca arrived, may have had a deep understanding of astronomy and natural cycles, using these structures as part of a larger, ceremonial or observatory complex. Could these lesser structures have been used for ritualistic purposes tied to celestial events, such as solstices or eclipses? If so, what significance did the land itself hold for the people who built here? Were they attempting to communicate with the forces of nature, marking the turning of seasons or paying homage to the sun and stars? Yet, despite these tantalizing theories, no definitive evidence has yet emerged to support the notion that these lesser structures were used in an astronomical or ritualistic capacity. Some scholars believe that the irregular alignment of the buildings is simply a result of evolving architectural practices. As the Cañari transitioned from their earlier, more rudimentary structures to the sophisticated stonework of the Inca, their building techniques may have become more experimental, leading to the construction of these seemingly random formations. Could it be that the irregularity of the lesser structures was simply a byproduct of cultural and architectural evolution, rather than evidence of a grand cosmic design? The possibility remains open, leaving room for further investigation and debate. What is clear, however, is that the lesser structures at Ingapirca were not mere afterthoughts. They were deliberately constructed, and their precise placement suggests a degree of planning and foresight. The stones used in their construction are similar to those found in the main temple, indicating that the builders of these smaller structures had access to the same skilled labor and resources. In fact, the Inca themselves valued the site enough to incorporate it into their empire, further cementing its importance. But why these smaller buildings were left largely unexplored, while the larger, more imposing Inca structures were preserved and celebrated, remains a point of curiosity. As we consider the history of Ingapirca, it becomes evident that the site holds multiple layers of meaning, each one more complex than the last. The Kanyari people, who were skilled in agriculture, pottery, and metallurgy, may have used the site as a place of governance, community gathering, and ritual. They had a deep connection to the land and its natural cycles, and it is possible that the lesser structures were intended to reflect that connection. But could they have served a more specific function, perhaps as part of a ceremonial complex dedicated to gods of fertility, the harvest, or the elements? Moreover, the arrival of the Inca in the 15th century BC introduces another layer of mystery. When the Inca expanded their empire, they often assimilated local cultures, adapting their architectural and religious practices to the territories they conquered. In the case of Ingapirca, the Inca may have adapted existing Kanyari structures to suit their own purposes, incorporating the stone platforms and temples into their vast network of religious sites. Yet, even as the Inca transformed Ingapirca into one of their northernmost centers, they left many of the smaller structures untouched. Why? Was there something about these lesser buildings that held a deeper significance for the Kanyari people that the Inca could not, or would not, replicate? Or perhaps these buildings were simply not deemed worthy of modification by the Inca, who focused their efforts on the larger, more dominant structures that aligned with their imperial ideals. The question remains, what was the true purpose of the lesser structures at Ingapirca? Were they built as part of a broader religious or ceremonial complex, or did they serve practical purposes tied to daily life in the settlement? Their alignment with natural features and celestial events suggests that they may have been part of an ancient worldview deeply connected to the earth and the sky. Yet the lack of definitive evidence leaves us with more questions than answers. The mystery of the Ingapirca lesser structures invites further exploration and reflection. What might still lie hidden beneath the earth at Ingapirca? Are there further discoveries to be made that will shed light on the function of these lesser structures? Or are they destined to remain one of the many unanswered questions of the ancient Andean world? As we continue our journey through the unexplained archaeological wonders of the past, we are reminded that some mysteries are not easily solved, but in that very uncertainty lies their enduring allure. As we move from the high Andes of Ecuador to the fertile plains of the Indus Valley, another mystery awaits. This time, it is not just a collection of stone platforms or carefully arranged buildings, but an entire ancient city, one of the largest and most sophisticated urban centers of the ancient world. The ruins of Mohenjo-Daro rise from the banks of the Indus River, a site that, when first excavated, left archaeologists and historians awestruck by its advanced architecture, precise urban planning, and highly developed drainage systems. Yet despite decades of study, Mohenjo-Daro remains one of the most mysterious and unexplained archaeological sites in human history. Discovered in the early 1920s, Mohenjo-Daro was part of the Indus Valley Civilization, an ancient culture that flourished around 2500 BC in what is now Pakistan and northwest India. This civilization, contemporaneous with ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia, reached extraordinary levels of sophistication. The city's layout, streets, and buildings are remarkably well planned, with a complex grid system that suggests a level of urban organization that was far ahead of its time. The city featured wide streets, advanced drainage systems, and public baths that were unparalleled in the ancient world. For centuries, historians assumed that the people who built Mohenjo-Daro were a peaceful, highly organized society, living in harmony with nature and each other. But as more research was conducted, the mysteries began to multiply. The most striking and perplexing feature of the city is not just its urban layout, but the unsettling nature of its abandonment. Mohenjo-Daro was a thriving metropolis, home to tens of thousands of people with no apparent reason for its sudden decline. The city shows no signs of violent warfare or destruction, no burning, no signs of invasion, but its abandonment around 1900 BC is a historical puzzle that still defies a clear explanation. What caused this civilization, which was so advanced for its time, to vanish so abruptly? Was it a natural disaster, such as an earthquake or a flood, that forced the people to leave? Or could there have been a more mysterious, catastrophic event that led to the city's fall? Perhaps one of the most haunting aspects of Mohenjo-Daro is the discovery of human remains scattered throughout the site. In some areas, the remains are found in unnatural positions, suggesting that the people may have been caught in a sudden, catastrophic event. Some of the skeletons were found in the open streets, others near wells or drains, seemingly frozen in time. Could the city have been abandoned due to a sudden disaster, leaving people to perish in the chaos? Were the remains of Mohenjo-Daro's citizens victims of a disease, a climate shift, or something more inexplicable? The lack of evidence for violence or warfare has led some researchers to propose that a sudden epidemic or environmental catastrophe might have struck, causing the city's downfall. Yet, while these are plausible explanations, none of them fully account for the overwhelming mystery that surrounds Mohenjo-Daro. The city was not just technologically advanced, it was also culturally sophisticated. The Indus Valley people had their own writing system, though it remains undeciphered to this day. They had a deep understanding of urban planning, evidenced in the well-organized streets and sophisticated drainage systems that were more advanced than many later civilizations. The question remains: how could a people so advanced in these areas suddenly disappear without leaving behind any clear record of their downfall? In addition to these questions, there are peculiar artifacts found at Mohenjo-Daro that seem to suggest that the city's inhabitants may have had a knowledge of the world that we are only beginning to understand. Some of the most enigmatic discoveries at the site are the many small statues and figurines of animals and deities. The Pashupati seal, a carved stone artifact depicting a figure seated cross-legged with animals surrounding it, has long been interpreted as a representation of a proto-Shiva deity, which would later be a prominent figure in Hinduism. The presence of this figure, along with other religious artifacts, raises the question of what religious or spiritual beliefs the people of Mohenjo-Daro held. Were they part of a broader, even older religious tradition that influenced later belief systems? Or did the people of Mohenjo-Daro possess spiritual practices and rituals that have been lost to history? The seal also offers another layer of intrigue, especially when considered in the context of the many Indus Valley seals found at other sites across the region. These seals, inscribed with symbols that appear to form a form of writing, have never been fully deciphered, despite many attempts. What was the purpose of this writing system, and what information might it hold? Was it a simple record-keeping tool, or was it part of a more profound philosophical or religious tradition? The inability to decode these symbols only deepens the enigma of Mohenjo-Daro, leaving us with more questions than answers. Some of the more fringe theories surrounding Mohenjo-Daro suggest that the city's mysterious collapse could be linked to something far more extraordinary, perhaps even extraterrestrial. There are those who point to the advanced technology and the unusual nature of the city's sudden decline as evidence of a more cosmic or supernatural intervention. Could there have been an unknown force, perhaps a catastrophic event from the heavens, that led to the destruction of the city? These ideas, though speculative and often dismissed by mainstream scholars, tap into a deeper, more profound mystery, one that continues to intrigue those who look at Mohenjo-Daro as a place where the past might hold answers to questions we have yet to ask. Moreover, the discovery of radioactive elements in the soil near the ruins of Mohenjo-Daro has sparked even more debate. Traces of radioactive material have been found at the site, leading some to speculate about the possibility of ancient nuclear events. While this theory remains highly controversial and has been met with skepticism, the presence of unusual radioactive traces at a site so ancient raises a number of questions about the nature of the city's collapse. Could there have been a nuclear catastrophe, whether by natural or artificial means, that contributed to the city's destruction? The notion of ancient nuclear warfare or natural radiation remains one of the most bizarre and provocative theories associated with Mohenjo-Daro, a theory that, for now, remains unproven, but far from completely dismissed. As we step back and reflect on the ruins of Mohenjo-Daro, we find ourselves standing at the crossroads of history, science, and speculation. The evidence points to a highly advanced civilization, yet its sudden disappearance leaves us with more questions than answers. What happened to the people of Mohenjo-Daro? Was it a natural disaster, an environmental collapse, or something more mysterious? Did their advanced knowledge of urban planning and technology protect them from the forces of nature? Or did they fall victim to those very forces? The remains of this ancient city continue to speak to us from across millennia, but their message is still not fully understood. Perhaps the most unsettling thing about Mohenjo-Daro is how much we still don't know. The site, though one of the most significant archaeological discoveries of the 20th century, remains an enigma, a place where ancient knowledge, advanced technology, and a sudden, unexplained collapse continue to inspire curiosity and speculation. And as we continue our search for answers, the city of Mohenjo-Daro serves as a reminder that the mysteries of the ancient world are far from being solved. What secrets might still lie buried beneath its ruins, waiting to be uncovered? What hidden truths from the past might still be hidden, just beyond the reach of modern science and understanding? Only time will tell. As we leave the winding paths of ancient cities like Mohenjo-Daro, our journey takes us to the heart of Mesopotamia, where another monumental structure waits, its origins and purpose still largely shrouded in mystery. The Ziggurat of Dur-Kurigalzu, nestled along the banks of the Diyala River in modern-day Iraq, stands as an imposing testament to the ingenuity and ambition of the ancient Babylonian civilization. It is one of the most enigmatic of the ziggurats, those massive tiered structures that once dotted the ancient landscapes of Mesopotamia. Yet, despite its grandeur and strategic location, the Ziggurat of Dur-Kurigalzu has remained, for the most part, an underappreciated and puzzling relic of a forgotten era. Standing nearly 50 feet tall at its peak, the Ziggurat of Dur-Kurigalzu was built around the 14th century BC during the reign of King Kurigalzu II, who ruled over the Kassite dynasty. This vast stepped pyramid, constructed from mud brick and adorned with glazed brick decoration, was dedicated to the god Enlil, one of the chief deities of ancient Mesopotamian religion. It would have once been a monumental site, a focal point for worship, and a symbol of the king's power and divine favor. But despite its prominence in the region, the Ziggurat of Dur-Kurigalzu has largely been overshadowed by the more famous ziggurats at Ur and Babylon. Perhaps the most intriguing aspect of this ziggurat is that it is not just a place of worship, but also a symbol of the unexplained, an ancient mystery that has puzzled archaeologists for generations. Unlike other ziggurats, which were often built at the center of large urban centers, Dur-Kurigalzu was constructed somewhat remotely, away from the major cities of the region. The site of Dur-Kurigalzu, once a thriving city in its own right, is now a desolate ruin, its ziggurat partially dismantled and buried beneath centuries of earth. The city itself, founded by Kurigalzu II as a political and religious center, seems to have been of great significance during its time. Yet, after the fall of the Kassite dynasty, the city was abandoned, and much of its history faded into obscurity. What remains today is a haunting reflection of a once great civilization, with few clues left to explain its sudden disappearance or the fate of the people who once revered the ziggurat. For centuries, the ziggurat's purpose and the larger city of Dur-Kurigalzu have perplexed archaeologists. Why was the ziggurat built in such an isolated location, far from the heart of the Babylonian Empire? Some believe it was constructed as part of a larger religious complex, intended to serve as a grand center for the worship of Enlil, the god of air, wind, and storms. Its tiered structure, like other ziggurats, would have symbolized the ascent of the soul to the heavens, drawing the worshippers closer to their gods. But the site's isolation raises further questions. Was it deliberately built away from major population centers to keep its power and rituals hidden from the prying eyes of other city-states? Or was it an act of defiance, a statement by King Kurigalzu II of his divine authority and his desire to carve out a new legacy separate from the traditional cities of Babylon and Ur? In addition to the questions surrounding its location and purpose, the ziggurat of Dur-Kurigalzu also harbors another curious feature: its construction material. While most ziggurats in Mesopotamia were built with mud brick, the ziggurat of Dur-Kurigalzu was made primarily of mud brick, but with an unusual layer of glazed bricks, a technique that became more common in the later periods of Mesopotamian architecture. These glazed bricks, with their vibrant colors and intricate patterns, suggest that the ziggurat was not merely a functional religious site, but a monument designed to convey power, grandeur, and divine favor. Could these decorative elements have had a symbolic function? Were the brightly colored glazed bricks intended to represent the divine light, shining down from the heavens and illuminating the earthly realm of the king and his people? Or was there another, more mysterious significance to the presence of these bricks, one that we have yet to uncover? While the physical construction of the ziggurat raises questions, so too does the fate of the city itself. After the fall of the Kassite dynasty around the 12th century BC, the city of Dur-Kurigalzu was abandoned, and its remains were largely forgotten. But it's not just the collapse of the city that's mysterious. It's the absence of definitive records explaining why it was abandoned in the first place. Could the fall of Dur-Kurigalzu have been tied to the larger decline of the Kassite dynasty? Or were there other, more unknown forces at play? Some scholars have speculated that the city was the victim of internal strife or a sudden invasion, but no concrete evidence has emerged to support these theories. Could the city have been abandoned due to environmental factors, such as the shifting of trade routes or the depletion of local resources? Or is it possible that the king's ambitious project, which required vast amounts of resources, became unsustainable and led to the eventual decline of both the city and its once impressive ziggurat? Furthermore, the enigmatic nature of the ziggurat's construction adds another layer to its mystery. Why, for instance, was it built in such a specific manner, with its tiers and elaborate design? Ziggurats were typically built to evoke the sacred mountains of Mesopotamian mythology, but the precise alignment of Dur-Kurigalzu raises further questions. Was it intended to align with astronomical events, as some other ziggurats were, or did it serve another, more unknown purpose? Did King Kurigalzu II consult astrological omens, seeking guidance from the stars when planning the construction of his grand religious edifice? Adding to the enigma are the remnants of artifacts that have been uncovered at the site. objects that offer tantalizing glimpses into the life and rituals of those who once inhabited the area. Statues, inscriptions, and clay tablets bearing the name of King Kurigalzu II have been found, but much of the written record remains obscure. What were these ancient people trying to communicate through their inscriptions, and why have their records not survived in greater abundance? The absence of detailed historical records surrounding the construction of the ziggurat and the eventual abandonment of the city leaves us with more questions than answers. Was it a deliberate attempt to erase the past, or simply the result of time's inevitable erosion? The Ziggurat of Dur-Kurigalzu, much like the city itself, stands as a silent, solitary witness to a time long past. As one of the many monuments to ancient Mesopotamian civilization, it serves as a reminder of the vast knowledge and ambition of its creators. Yet, its exact purpose, its spiritual significance, its role within the Kassite dynasty, and the reason for its eventual abandonment, remains a mystery that has not been fully solved. The ziggurat is a work of remarkable architectural skill, a symbol of divine power and human achievement, yet it holds secrets that continue to elude modern archaeologists. Perhaps, like the Mohenjo-Daro ruins, the Ziggurat of Dur-Kurigalzu is a testament to the complexity and impermanence of human civilization. As the layers of history continue to unfold, we are left to wonder, what might still be buried beneath the sands, waiting to be discovered? What knowledge could still lie hidden, locked within the walls of this ancient monument, waiting for the right moment to be uncovered? The answers may lie somewhere deep within the ruins, or they may remain forever lost to time, leaving us to ponder the mysteries of a civilization that once reached for the heavens. As we move from the towering ziggurats of Mesopotamia to the ancient lands of Dacia, we find ourselves at the heart of another enigmatic civilization, one that, despite its significance, remains largely unknown to the wider world. Nestled in the rugged hills of the Romania countryside lies Sarmizegetusa Regia, the capital of the Dacian kingdom, a site of extraordinary archaeological and cultural importance. The Sarmizegetusa Regia ruins are a striking reminder of a civilization that once flourished in the heart of Europe, only to be largely erased from history following the Roman conquest. Yet, despite centuries of research, the full story of this ancient city remains elusive, its mysteries calling to be unraveled. The ruins of Sarmizegetusa Regia are set against the backdrop of a dramatic landscape. Steep hills and dense forests surround the site, offering a glimpse into a world that feels distant, almost otherworldly. As you walk through the ruins today, the silence of the ancient stone structures is palpable. Towering fortifications, once thought to be insurmountable, still stand as silent witnesses to a long-lost culture. The remains of temples, altars, and circular sanctuaries dot the site, all pointing to a highly sophisticated civilization with a deep reverence for the spiritual and the natural world. Built around the 1st century BC, Sarmizegetusa Regia was not only a political and military center for the Dacians, but also a hub for their religious practices. The city's design reflects a meticulous, almost otherworldly sense of organization. At its heart, the ruins reveal a vast complex of walls, circular stone platforms, and sacred structures that align with the sun, the stars, and the natural landscape. These unique architectural features suggest that the Dacians had a sophisticated understanding of astronomy, geometry, and the natural world, knowledge that was far ahead of its time in many respects. One of the most compelling and mysterious aspects of Sarmizegetusa Regia is its connection to the cosmos. The city's temples and sanctuaries are carefully aligned with the movement of celestial bodies, with some structures appearing to be positioned to mark the solstices, equinoxes, and other key astronomical events. The use of circular stone platforms, similar to other ancient sacred sites such as Stonehenge in Britain, raises the possibility that the Dacians were using their city not just as a political center, but as a place of deep spiritual significance. Were the Dacians using these structures to commune with the heavens, or to track the movements of the stars for practical purposes, such as agriculture or warfare? The central sanctuary of Sarmizegetusa Regia, known as the Sacred Area, is a place where some of the most striking and unexplained elements of the site come into view. The area features a series of concentric circular stone platforms, suggesting that the site was built with a deliberate focus on symmetry and cosmic alignment. Archaeologists believe that the platforms may have been used for rituals, ceremonies, or offerings, but the full extent of their significance remains unclear. Was there a more profound understanding of the cosmos among the Dacians, an understanding that we have yet to fully uncover? Could these stone platforms have served as a kind of ancient calendar, guiding not only the rhythms of nature, but the movements of an entire civilization? Adding to the mystery of Sarmizegetusa Regia is the complexity of the fortifications that surround the site. The city was built atop a high plateau, surrounded by massive defensive walls made from large stone blocks. These walls, some of which are over 10 feet thick, were designed to protect the city from invasion. Yet, there is no evidence of large-scale battles or sieges at Sarmizegetusa Regia before the Roman conquest, leading some scholars to speculate that the city's defenses may have served a different purpose. Could the fortifications have been built to protect the city from internal strife, or was there another, more spiritual reason for these defensive walls? Was the city, with its sacred geometry and cosmic alignment, thought to be an inviolable center of power, one that needed to be protected not just from outside invaders, but from unseen, supernatural forces? Despite the city's impressive defenses and its architectural grandeur, Sarmizegetusa Regia ultimately fell to the might of the Roman Empire in the early 2nd century A.D., after a brutal series of wars. The Dacians fought fiercely to protect their land, but the Romans, under Emperor Trajan, eventually overwhelmed them, marking the end of the Dacian kingdom. Following the conquest, Sarmizegetusa Regia was abandoned, and much of its knowledge and culture was lost. The Romans, in their conquest, left behind little to indicate their understanding of the Dacians or their customs. The site was gradually forgotten, buried under centuries of soil and neglect, until its rediscovery by archaeologists in the 19th century. But even now, despite extensive excavation, the site's true significance remains unclear. The exact reasons for the Dacians' defeat remain a subject of debate among scholars. Some argue that the Romans were simply too powerful to resist, while others suggest that there may have been deeper political or cultural factors at play. Could it be that the Dacians lacked the technological or military prowess to resist Roman forces? Or was their defeat due to an internal collapse, perhaps brought on by the same cosmic and spiritual forces that they so deeply revered? Could the loss of the city's spiritual center have led to a disintegration of the Dacians' unity, making them more vulnerable to conquest? Perhaps the most intriguing question surrounding Sarmizegetusa Regia is what might still lie hidden beneath the ruins. While much of the site has been excavated, there are still areas that have not been fully explored. Could there be additional sanctuaries, hidden chambers, or artifacts buried beneath the earth, objects that would shed light on the Dacians' spiritual practices or their knowledge of the cosmos? And if so, what secrets might they reveal about the civilization that once called this place home? Could there be hidden treasures or ancient scrolls, perhaps containing knowledge of rituals or beliefs that were never written down, passed down only through oral tradition? As the excavations continue, the mystery of Sarmizegetusa Regia only deepens. The alignment of the city with celestial bodies, the precision of its sacred structures, and the enigmatic purpose of its fortifications continue to puzzle archaeologists. The site stands as a testament to a civilization that was both profoundly connected to the natural world and deeply committed to the cosmic forces that shaped it. Yet, much of what the Dacians believed and understood remains locked away in the stones of the ancient city. The questions surrounding Sarmizegetusa Regia are far from answered. The Dacians left behind no written records, and the Romans, who destroyed their city, did little to document the beliefs and practices of their vanquished foes. So, as we stand among the ruins, we are left to wonder, what might still be hidden beneath the surface of Sarmizegetusa Regia? What ancient wisdom might yet be discovered, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself? The answers, for now, remain tantalizingly out of reach. But the mystery of this ancient site continues to intrigue and beckon, as it has done for centuries. As we journey deeper into the mists of prehistory, we arrive at a site that has long fascinated archaeologists and historians alike. Situated in the remote hills of Scotland, near the banks of the River Nairn, is the Balnuaran of Clava, a complex of ancient burial cairns and stone circles that have captured the imagination of those who seek to understand the spiritual and architectural practices of the Neolithic people who once inhabited these lands. The site is mysterious, not only because of the age of its structures, but also due to the unanswered questions surrounding its purpose and meaning. The Balnuaran of Clava complex consists of a series of carefully constructed burial cairns, each surrounded by circular stone enclosures known as henges. These are not the towering, iconic stone circles of Stonehenge fame, but rather smaller, more intimate structures, made from massive stones and arranged with meticulous care. At the center of these cairns lie large flat stones, often aligned with astronomical phenomena, a detail that suggests the people of this ancient site had a profound understanding of the heavens. One of the most striking features of the site is its intricate alignment with the changing seasons. At the winter solstice, the low sun rises directly over the entrance to one of the central cairns, casting long shadows over the surrounding stones and creating a vivid spectacle of light and shadow. This phenomenon is not unique to Balnuaran of Clava, but is found at many other prehistoric sites across Europe. Yet, what makes this alignment so fascinating is the precision with which it was achieved, and the suggestion that the people who built these cairns were using the landscape itself as a kind of cosmic calendar. What was the purpose of this alignment? Was it a ceremonial practice tied to the cycles of nature? Or was it part of a deeper understanding of time, life, and death? And if so, who were these people, and what belief systems did they hold that could inspire such architectural feats? As we explore the site further, we find that the cairns are more than just simple burial mounds. They are intricately designed, with stones placed in specific patterns that are not immediately obvious to the casual observer. The cairns at Balnuaran of Clava are particularly notable for the presence of large, upright stones arranged in circular or semicircular formations. This is not an accidental arrangement. Archaeologists have suggested that the arrangement of these stones may have held symbolic significance, perhaps related to fertility, the cycle of life, or ancestral veneration. Yet, the exact symbolism remains elusive, as no written records from the time exist to explain the meaning of the site's design. Interestingly, Balnuaran of Clava shares striking similarities with other burial sites from the same period, such as the Orkney Islands Maeshowe and the Tomb of the Eagles in Shetland. All of these sites are thought to have been used for communal burial, with a strong emphasis on ancestral reverence. The idea that these cairns were more than just tombs but rather portals to the past, linking the living with their ancestors, is a compelling one. But the mystery deepens further when we consider that these sites, including Balnuaran of Clava, are often located in places of natural beauty or strategic significance, on elevated ground, near water, or within landscapes that themselves seem charged with mystery. Was there something about these locations that made them sacred, even in prehistoric times? Some researchers have speculated that Balnuaran of Clava could have been part of a broader network of sites connected by a shared spiritual or ritualistic system. These ancient people may have used the sites for seasonal ceremonies, possibly linked to the cycle of death and rebirth, a theme that resonates across many ancient cultures. The precise alignment with the solstices hints at a possible agricultural or cosmological connection, suggesting that the people of Balnuaran of Clava may have used the site as a kind of cosmic observatory, monitoring celestial events to determine the best times for planting, harvesting, or even conducting sacred rites. Could these people have had an advanced understanding of astronomy, far ahead of what we typically associate with ancient societies? Adding to the mystery is the fact that Balnuaran of Clava seems to have been abandoned long before the arrival of the Romans. The reasons for its abandonment remain unclear, though some scholars suggest that the site may have fallen out of use as societal changes, or perhaps a shift in religious practices, led to the decline of the culture that built it. Was the site abandoned because its original purpose was no longer relevant to the people who lived there, or was it due to external pressures, perhaps from neighboring tribes or invaders? We may never know, but the sudden cessation of activity at Balnuaran of Clava adds another layer of mystery to an already enigmatic site. Some have proposed that the site could have had a more esoteric or mystical significance, perhaps tied to ancient rituals involving life, death, and the afterlife. The precision of the stone arrangements, coupled with the alignments to celestial events, suggests that these ancient people were deeply attuned to the cycles of nature, and possibly believed that their spiritual lives were closely tied to the movements of the heavens. Could Balnuaran of Clava have served as a site where ancient rites were performed to ensure fertility, or perhaps to communicate with the ancestors? Or, as some have suggested, could it have been a place for rites of passage, marking key moments in the life cycle, from birth to death, with each stone representing a significant step in the journey? While the practical and ceremonial purposes of the site remain speculative, the grandeur and complexity of the Balnuaran of Clava ruins suggest that they were more than just simple burial sites. They were places of profound spiritual significance, where ancient peoples sought to connect with forces far greater than themselves, whether through the worship of nature, the observation of celestial events, or the veneration of the dead. But even as we uncover more of the material evidence, the most significant questions remain unanswered. What were the people of Balnuaran of Clava trying to communicate through these carefully arranged stones and aligned structures? Was their knowledge of the cosmos the result of generations of observation, or was it part of a shared spiritual tradition passed down through rituals that we can only guess at? And why, after centuries of use, was the site abandoned? And what does that abandonment say about the culture that once thrived there? Like so many ancient sites, Balnuaran of Clava holds its secrets tightly, leaving us with more questions than answers. But it also offers a glimpse into a world long lost, a world where the celestial and the terrestrial were intertwined in ways that we are only beginning to understand. As we continue to study these ancient structures, we can only wonder what more might be uncovered. What hidden knowledge might lie beneath the earth, waiting to be rediscovered? And, perhaps most tantalizing of all, what might we yet learn about the people who once stood here, gazing up at the stars and seeking answers from the heavens? After delving into the ancient megalithic structures of Europe and the Near East, we now find ourselves in the rugged hills of the Republic of North Macedonia, where another monumental yet enigmatic site awaits our attention: Kokino Observatory. Situated about 30 kilometers northeast of the capital, Skopje, this ancient site is perched on the edge of a plateau, offering a stunning panoramic view of the surrounding landscape. But Kokino is not just a picturesque ruin. It is a place of profound historical and astronomical significance, one that continues to confound experts. At first glance, Kokino seems like a relatively modest site. Comprising a series of stone structures, platforms, and markers, the site stretches across a rugged outcrop of rock. However, a closer inspection reveals something far more remarkable. These structures are aligned with the movements of the sun, moon, and stars, suggesting that this site served as an astronomical observatory long before such sophisticated institutions were thought to exist. The sheer precision with which these structures are aligned to celestial bodies points to an advanced understanding of astronomy, one that predates many of the ancient observatories we know from other parts of the world, such as Stonehenge or the ancient temples of Mesopotamia. The most striking feature of Kokino is its central platform, often referred to as the astronomical seat. This large, flat rock appears to have been intentionally placed, its orientation allowing observers to track the movements of the sun and moon with stunning accuracy. The platform faces a series of stone markers, which are thought to have been used for both solar and lunar observations. These markers align with the rising and setting points of the sun during the solstices, suggesting that the people who built Kokino had a deep understanding of the cycles of nature, specifically the annual movement of the sun. But the mystery deepens when we consider the lunar alignments. The site is also oriented to observe the rise and fall of the moon at specific intervals, indicating that the lunar cycle held significant importance for these ancient people. This sophisticated understanding of the heavens is made all the more mysterious by the fact that Kokino appears to be thousands of years older than many of the better-known observatories of antiquity. Radiocarbon dating suggests that the site may have been constructed as far back as the Bronze Age, around 1800 BC, though the true age of the site remains the subject of ongoing debate. If these estimates are correct, Kokino would predate the Great Pyramids of Egypt and the early civilizations of Mesopotamia, both of which are often credited with the earliest astronomical knowledge. Yet, the people of Kokino left no written records, so we are left to piece together the story of this site from its stone remains, celestial alignments, and the few artifacts that have been uncovered. What, then, were the people of Kokino trying to communicate with their stone markers and platforms? Were they simply tracking the seasons for agricultural purposes, as many ancient cultures did? Or was the site used for more complex religious or ceremonial functions, as some have suggested? The presence of such precise alignments raises the possibility that Kokino was not only a place of observation, but also a place of ritual, a sacred space where the natural world and the heavens were intimately connected. The patterns of the sun and moon may have held deeper meaning, perhaps tied to cycles of life, death, and rebirth, or to the gods who governed the heavens. There are those who speculate that the builders of Kokino were not merely simple farmers or primitive peoples, but rather a society with a sophisticated worldview, possibly even one that had contact with other advanced cultures of the ancient world. Could the builders of Kokino have had knowledge of astronomical practices that were shared across vast distances? Some researchers have drawn comparisons between Kokino and the much older observatories of Egypt and Mesopotamia, suggesting that there may have been a pan-Eurasian network of astronomers, each contributing to a shared understanding of the cosmos. Others have pointed to the possibility that the site's alignments could indicate a connection to the ancient religious practices of the Indo-European peoples, who are believed to have traveled across much of Europe and Asia, carrying with them their knowledge of the stars. But even as we entertain these speculative theories, we must also acknowledge the limitations of what we can truly know about Kokino. While the site's astronomical alignments and its unique features are undeniable, much about its purpose remains shrouded in mystery. Was it a solitary observatory, built by a small, isolated community? Or was it part of a larger network of astronomical sites that spanned the region? The absence of any written records, as well as the lack of large-scale excavation, makes it difficult to draw definitive conclusions about the people who built Kokino and the meaning of their celestial observations. Perhaps most intriguing of all is the possibility that Kokino was not just a place of observation, but a site of pilgrimage or sacred importance. The careful arrangement of the stone structures and the alignment with celestial events suggest that the people who built it may have had a deep spiritual connection to the cosmos. Could Kokino have served as a kind of temple to the stars, a place where the boundaries between the earthly and the divine were blurred? Was the observation of celestial events, such as the solstices and lunar phases, part of a larger spiritual or religious framework that governed the lives of those who visited the site? As with many ancient mysteries, Kokino raises more questions than it answers. We may never know the full extent of its purpose or its significance to the people who created it. But one thing is certain. The site offers a tantalizing glimpse into a forgotten past, where people sought to understand and harness the power of the stars. Perhaps, as our understanding of ancient cultures and their knowledge of the heavens continues to grow, we will one day unlock more of the secrets of Kokino. Until then, it remains one of the most fascinating and enigmatic sites in the ancient world, leaving us to wonder, what other ancient observatories remain hidden, waiting to reveal their secrets to those who are willing to look up at the stars and seek the answers that lie in the cosmos? As we shift our focus from the celestial alignments of Kokino, we now journey into the heart of one of the greatest archaeological enigmas of the ancient world, the Harappa Granaries of the Indus Valley Civilization. Located in the present-day Pakistan, these imposing structures, built of baked brick and located in the ancient city of Harappa, stand as silent witnesses to a thriving civilization that once flourished along the banks of the Indus River, long before the rise of Egypt, Mesopotamia, or China. Harappa, with its expansive and meticulously planned layout, has intrigued archaeologists for over a century. But the discovery of its granaries, complex structures scattered across the site, adds a layer of mystery that no one has yet fully unraveled. These granaries, large rectangular buildings equipped with ventilation shafts, were designed to store grain, but their exact role, size, and the purposes they served remain subjects of intense debate. The granaries themselves are imposing, built with great precision, their brickwork still standing centuries after the collapse of the civilization that constructed them. Most are strategically placed near the main citadel of Harappa, as though they were intended not only for the local community, but also for some larger, more centralized system. Their shape is not random, and the attention to ventilation suggests a purpose beyond simple storage. Some have theorized that the architects of Harappa were far ahead of their time, using a scientific understanding of airflow to ensure the grain did not spoil. Others argue that the granaries were designed for ceremonial purposes, possibly linked to agricultural rites. But this is where the questions deepen. What was it about the Indus Valley civilization that necessitated such large-scale grain storage? In a region of fertile plains and rivers, why would the people have needed structures so elaborate, so precise? It is well known that grain storage is an integral part of any early society, but what is particularly striking here is the uniformity in scale. Some of the granaries are as large as warehouses, suggesting they were not just storing food for local consumption, but possibly for a larger trade network, even suggesting Harappa as a key nexus in a vast, interconnected world. And yet, as we dig deeper, we find that many of these questions remain unanswered. The Indus Valley Civilization, also known as the Harappan Civilization, was one of the earliest urban cultures in the world, dating back to roughly 2600 BC. Its cities were marvels of planning and organization, with well-laid-out streets, standardized bricks, sophisticated drainage systems, and even early forms of metallurgy. But despite all its grandeur, the civilization's script, which could potentially answer so many questions about its people, remains undeciphered. It is a language locked in silence, adding to the enigma of the Harappa granaries. What makes these granaries even more puzzling is their apparent disconnection from the rest of the culture. They are found in multiple Harappan cities, such as Mohenjo-Daro and Dolavira, yet no comparable structures appear in other ancient civilizations of the same period. Why, then, were these granaries so integral to Harappa's economic and societal structure? Were they used for the simple storage of surplus grain, or did they represent something much more intricate? Could they have been part of a ritual connected to harvest cycles or offerings to gods of fertility, as suggested by some scholars? Or were they evidence of a more advanced, and perhaps less understood, socio-political system, one where grain storage symbolized power, wealth, or control? The remarkable scale of these granaries also raises more questions about the people who built them. Who had the authority to regulate such a system of storage? Was there a central government or ruler in Harappa, or was the society perhaps decentralized, relying on an extensive network of trade and communal agreements? These questions are complicated by the fact that no clear evidence of a centralized political structure has ever been found. Unlike Egypt or Mesopotamia, where written records tell the tale of kings and dynasties, the Harappans left no such records behind. No stone inscriptions or monumental texts to give us insight into their political or economic systems. What then were the true functions of these granaries? Were they evidence of an organized state, or were they an extension of a decentralized economy? Even the construction of these granaries is open to interpretation. Many of them have been found with mysterious ventilation shafts, which some believe were designed to regulate temperature and humidity, ensuring the grain would not spoil. Yet no similar designs appear in other ancient civilizations of the same period. The granaries of Harappa seem almost modern in their attention to detail, suggesting that their architects possessed an advanced understanding of the laws of nature, perhaps even an appreciation for the mechanics of climate control. Beyond their functional role, however, some theorists wonder if these granaries had a symbolic or ritualistic significance. Could they have represented more than just food storage? In a society where life was closely intertwined with the cycles of nature, and where agriculture was a cornerstone of survival, grain might have taken on a much deeper meaning. Some scholars have proposed that these structures were more than mere warehouses. They were temples to the harvest, places where rituals might have been performed to ensure the success of the crops. If the granaries were indeed central to the Harappan belief system, this would suggest that their societal and spiritual life was intricately linked to their agricultural practices in ways that are still not fully understood. And yet, there is another layer of mystery: the sudden disappearance of the Harappan civilization itself. Around 1900 BC, the cities of the Indus Valley began to decline rapidly, and within a few centuries, they were abandoned. What caused the fall of such a sophisticated society? Was it a sudden environmental catastrophe, perhaps a shift in the course of the Indus River, or a climate change that devastated crops and food supplies? Or was it something more systemic, such as internal strife or a breakdown in trade? The mysterious collapse of Harappa has sparked centuries of debate, with many pointing to the granaries as a key piece of the puzzle. Some believe that, without the grain reserves to support its population, the civilization could not survive. But others argue that the granaries themselves may have been repurposed, possibly leading to a shift in the city's role, its identity, or its function. The mystery of the Harappa granaries continues to linger in the shadows of history, offering only fragments of answers. Their purpose, their builders, and their role in the downfall of the civilization remain speculative. What we do know is that these structures are a testament to the ingenuity of the Harappans, an ancient society that seemed to be far ahead of its time in its understanding of architecture, engineering, and possibly even astronomy. Yet, as with so many ancient ruins, their full story remains locked in time. The grain may have long since been consumed, but the enigma of Harappa remains as fresh as ever. And so, as we walk through the ruins of the granaries, we are left with the questions. What did the people of the Indus Valley truly understand about the cycles of nature and the role of agriculture in shaping their world? Was there something more to these structures than simple storage? Perhaps, as we continue to study and explore these ancient sites, we will one day uncover the deeper mysteries hidden beneath the rubble, waiting to be discovered once again. As we continue our exploration of the mysterious and unexplained wonders of the ancient world, we now turn our attention to the hauntingly beautiful Domus de Janas tombs scattered across the island of Sardinia. These enigmatic burial structures, whose name translates to Houses of the Fairies, evoke a sense of wonder and unease, their origins veiled in the mists of time. As with so many other ancient sites, the Domus de Janas challenge our understanding of the societies that built them, societies whose true purpose and beliefs remain obscured by the passage of centuries. Hidden beneath the rugged terrain of Sardinia, these tombs have been carved directly into the rock, often in intricate and elaborate designs that suggest a highly sophisticated level of craftsmanship. Some of the tombs resemble small stone houses, complete with arched doorways and interior chambers. They were constructed by the Neolithic people of Sardinia, likely during the Chalcolithic period, around 3000 BC. Yet, despite their age, these structures remain remarkably intact, as if time itself has suspended its grasp on them. Some tombs are adorned with carvings, abstract symbols, spirals, and geometric motifs that give a tantalizing glimpse into the belief systems of their creators, though their meanings remain unknown. What is perhaps most striking about these tombs is the deliberate effort to shape the natural rock into something that transcends mere utility. It is as though these tombs were built to reflect an otherworldly vision, blurring the boundaries between the living and the dead, between the physical and the spiritual. The tombs are often found in clusters, suggesting that they were not intended for individual burial, but rather for families or entire communities. But what was the purpose behind these tombs? Why were they designed in such a way that they seemed to invite a sense of the supernatural? The Domus de Janas have long fascinated archaeologists, and while their primary function is understood to be burial sites, their exact purpose remains a matter of intense speculation. Some scholars believe that these tombs were part of a broader ritualistic practice associated with death and the afterlife. The elaborate carvings and the distinctive architecture suggest that the people of Sardinia believed in a world beyond death, a realm that could be accessed through the tombs. Perhaps these tombs were viewed as portals, gateways between the realms of the living and the dead. Could the tombs have been built with the intention of facilitating the deceased's journey into the afterlife? Or were they a means of honoring and communing with ancestors, perhaps believing that the spirits of the dead continued to watch over and guide the living? Another intriguing aspect of the Domus de Janas is the presence of what appear to be ritual or ceremonial objects within some of the tombs. Though the grave goods found in these sites are often sparse, there are occasional discoveries of pottery, beads, and other items that suggest a society deeply concerned with ritual and the proper treatment of the dead. Could these items have been offerings to the deceased, intended to ensure a smooth transition into the afterlife, or were they symbolic, representing the deceased's status or role in the community? Some tombs even contain small niches, which may have once held personal items or objects of significance to the deceased. But the mysteries of the Domus de Janas do not end with their burial function. Perhaps one of the most perplexing aspects of these tombs is their location. Many of the tombs are positioned in places that seem to have special significance, often near natural features such as caves, springs, or mountain ridges. These sites were clearly chosen with care, and their placement hints at a deep spiritual connection to the land itself. Did the builders of the Domus de Janas believe that certain locations held more power, that the dead needed to be interred in places of particular spiritual resonance? Some scholars have even suggested that the tombs were placed in such locations to align with celestial events, suggesting an early form of astronomical knowledge. Were these tombs perhaps connected to a larger cosmological understanding, one that saw the world as a vast, interconnected system of forces? It is this connection between the spiritual, the physical, and the astronomical that has led some to speculate that the builders of the Domus de Janas were more than just a simple agricultural society. In fact, some fringe theories propose that these people were not only skilled artisans and builders, but also astronomers or even shamans with a profound understanding of the cosmos. Could the Domus de Janas have been part of a larger ritualistic tradition that combined astronomy with burial practices? Some researchers have even pointed to the idea that the tombs were constructed to align with the stars or certain constellations, suggesting that the people of Sardinia were not only concerned with earthly matters, but with the very heavens themselves. There are, of course, more speculative theories that venture into the realm of the supernatural. Given the tombs' names, houses of the fairies, it's no surprise that folklore has found a foothold in the interpretations of these sites. In Sardinian tradition, the Domus de Janas are often associated with the fairies or spirits of the island, who are said to inhabit the tombs and grant favors to those who seek them out. While there is little archaeological evidence to support such claims, the stories of fairies and magical beings are deeply rooted in the culture and folklore of the island. Could the tombs have been seen as sites of spiritual power, places where the veil between the living and the dead was thin, allowing for communication with otherworldly beings? Or could the supernatural associations simply be the product of centuries of folklore, which has attached its own meanings to these ancient sites? Adding to the mystery is the fact that, despite the many tombs scattered across Sardinia, the culture that built them remains largely anonymous. Unlike the Egyptians or the Minoans, the people who constructed the Domus de Janas left no written records behind. The only clues to their beliefs and practices are the tombs themselves, which speak to a people deeply attuned to the spiritual world but unwilling or unable to leave a written legacy. This anonymity, combined with the tomb's strange and enigmatic features, has led to many theories about the people who built them. Were they part of a larger, unknown civilization, or were they simply a regional group whose beliefs were shaped by the island's unique geography and culture? The lack of definitive answers only deepens the mystery, leaving archaeologists to speculate about the lost culture that built these tombs and the knowledge that has been lost with them. And yet, as we stand before the Domus de Janas, their silent stone doors standing open to the centuries, we are left with more questions than answers. The significance of the tombs, their connection to the land, the stars, and the spirits, remains as elusive as ever. Could these tombs have been a precursor to later religious practices? Were they an expression of a society's deep understanding of life, death, and the cosmos? Or were they something more, something beyond our current understanding? As the sun sets over the rugged landscape of Sardinia, casting long shadows across the ancient stones, one can't help but wonder what mysteries still lie hidden in these tombs, waiting to be uncovered by those who dare to look beyond the surface. The Domus de Janas may have been built to honor the dead, but in doing so, they have left us with a legacy of questions that may never be fully answered, but which continue to captivate our imaginations. As the journey through the unexplained wonders of the ancient world continues, we find ourselves in Rajgir, India, a site nestled between lush, verdant hills and framed by the jagged edges of mountain ranges. Here, in a quiet, almost forgotten corner of the Indian subcontinent, stand the enigmatic Cyclopean walls of Rajgir, a massive feat of ancient architecture that has puzzled historians, archaeologists, and explorers for centuries. To the untrained eye, the Cyclopean walls may seem like little more than weathered ruins, stone blocks stacked atop one another in an impressive yet seemingly conventional manner. But upon closer inspection, something unusual emerges. These walls, some of the oldest remnants of fortified structures in the region, are made from enormous, irregularly shaped stones, their sizes defying the capabilities of even the most advanced tools of the ancient world. Some of these stones are so large that no known human force would have been able to lift or maneuver them with the technology available at the time. The walls themselves form part of the fortifications that surrounded the ancient city of Rajgir, once the capital of the Magadha kingdom, one of the most powerful and influential states in ancient India. The city flourished between the 6th and 5th centuries BC, a time marked by political intrigue, philosophical exploration, and the rise of significant religious movements. Rajgir was the seat of power for several great kings, most notably Bimbisara and his son Ajatashatru, both of whom played key roles in shaping the history of the region. And yet, despite this rich historical context, the Cyclopean walls remain an unsolved mystery. The term Cyclopean itself, often applied to similar structures found across the ancient world, refers to the massive, unshaped stones that make up the walls, a construction technique associated with early civilizations that predate written records. It's said that only Cyclopes, giant beings of mythology, could have moved such enormous stones, hence the name. And though this may seem like mere legend, the term offers a glimpse into the awe and confusion felt by those who first encountered these ancient structures. At Rajgir, the Cyclopean walls are not merely remnants of a lost civilization, they are also an evocative riddle. The sheer scale of the stones suggests a level of engineering far beyond what one might expect from the early Magadhan period. The walls themselves stretch across several kilometers, some sections rising nearly 10 meters high. The gaps between the stones are so tight that it's nearly impossible to insert a knife blade between them, leading some to speculate that the builders possessed a sophisticated knowledge of stonework, potentially lost to time. The question that looms large over these structures is simple yet profound. How were they built? Some explanations are grounded in the historical record. The walls are believed to have been constructed during the reign of Ajatashatru, around the 5th century BC, as part of a large defensive fortification designed to protect the city of Rajgir from invasions. It's understood that the ancient city was strategically located at the foot of the Vipula Hills, surrounded by natural defenses. The Cyclopean walls likely served as a final barrier, a monumental effort to ward off enemies. But even with this understanding, the method of construction remains elusive. It is one thing to construct walls with smaller stones, yet these stones weigh several tons apiece and are cut with remarkable precision. How could these ancient people, whose tools were rudimentary by today's standards, have managed to carve, transport, and position these massive blocks with such accuracy? Could there have been a technology at play that has since been lost to history? It's not only the construction methods that stir intrigue. There is a deeper mystery surrounding the purpose of these walls. While most scholars agree that they were defensive, some argue that the scale and grandeur of the walls suggest something more symbolic, a statement of power, authority, or religious significance. Could the walls have been constructed not only for protection, but as a representation of divine order, an effort to invoke the gods' protection for the city and its rulers? The proximity of Rajgir to several important religious sites, such as the Vulture's Peak, where the Buddha is said to have delivered sermons, also fuels the speculation that these walls may have had a spiritual or ritualistic purpose. The mysteries do not end with their construction. There are also questions about how these structures were maintained. The walls have survived centuries of exposure to the elements, but many sections are in a state of disrepair. Parts of the stonework have eroded, and the jungle has begun to reclaim large swaths of the once imposing fortifications. How, then, did the ancient people of Rajgir manage to sustain such an extraordinary structure, particularly given the lack of advanced construction techniques? Beyond the mainstream explanations, there are some more speculative and even fringe theories that seek to shed light on the mystery of Rajgir's Cyclopean walls. One theory suggests that the builders may have had access to some form of advanced technology, perhaps knowledge lost to the ages. Some proponents of this theory have even drawn parallels between the Cyclopean walls of Rajgir and other ancient structures, like the pyramids of Egypt or the walls of Mycenae, suggesting that a long-lost civilization might have shared technological expertise across disparate cultures. While such claims remain highly speculative and unproven, they raise the tantalizing question: could ancient societies have been more interconnected than we've been led to believe? Other theories point to the idea that the massive stones were not moved by human hands at all, but instead by a forgotten method of levitation or sound vibration, an ancient science so advanced it has been entirely forgotten. These theories often delve into the realm of pseudoscience, but they persist because the mystery of the Cyclopean walls seems to defy the capabilities of the civilizations known to have existed at the time. What if ancient peoples possessed a knowledge that we, today, are still struggling to comprehend? Could the walls at Rajgir hold the key to understanding forgotten techniques of construction or manipulation of materials? The archaeological community, however, tends to lean toward more grounded explanations. Many believe that the Cyclopean walls were constructed using a combination of manpower, rudimentary tools, and possibly some early forms of pulleys and levers. It's likely that large teams of laborers, led by skilled engineers, worked for many years to complete the walls, using the natural landscape to their advantage to reduce the effort required to transport the enormous stones. Even so, this theory does not adequately explain the apparent precision with which the stones were cut or their extraordinary size. Were there perhaps techniques of stone cutting lost to time? Or is it possible that, in their pursuit of security, the people of Rajgir tapped into resources and knowledge that we have yet to fully uncover? The most compelling aspect of the Cyclopean walls at Rajgir is not simply their size or their mysterious construction, but their enduring presence. Over the centuries, they have become part of the landscape, a monumental, silent witness to the rise and fall of civilizations. As the ruins remain, so too does the question of who built them, how they were built, and perhaps most importantly, why they were built. Were they the final fortress of a once mighty kingdom, or did they serve a higher spiritual purpose that we are yet to comprehend? What secrets do these walls still hold beneath their weathered stones, waiting to be uncovered by those who are willing to look? The Cyclopean walls of Rajgir stand as a testament to the ancient ingenuity of a people long gone, their mysteries still unresolved. With each stone, with each puzzle piece left behind, the story of Rajgir beckons us to delve deeper, into the past, and perhaps into a future where the ancient and the modern are brought together in ways we have yet to fully imagine. As we shift our gaze across the vast and intricate tapestry of human history, there are certain places that seem to pull us into a deeper mystery, a place where the line between known history and the unknown blurs. One such place is Göbekli Tepe, an ancient site in southern Turkey that has captivated archaeologists, historians, and scholars for over a century. Here, in the heart of the Anatolian plateau, a vast and seemingly complex structure lies buried beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered. Known as the world's oldest temple, Göbekli Tepe challenges everything we thought we knew about early human civilization. To approach Göbekli Tepe is to step into a realm where time stretches back tens of thousands of years, further than most of the world's ancient monuments. In fact, the site predates the pyramids of Egypt, the Sumerian ziggurats, and even Stonehenge by millennia. The excavation of Göbekli Tepe has revealed a sprawling ceremonial complex, an intricate network of massive stone pillars arranged in circular patterns. Some of these pillars stand over 5 meters tall, weighing several tons each, and are adorned with detailed carvings of animals, abstract symbols, and mysterious motifs. The sheer scale and craftsmanship of these structures suggest a level of sophistication that many experts once believed was impossible for people of this time. What makes Göbekli Tepe so extraordinary is not just the artistry or the scale, but the sheer age of the site. Radiocarbon dating has shown that it was constructed around 9,600 BC, placing it at least 6,000 years before the rise of agriculture and more than 7,000 years before the development of writing. This discovery forces us to ask a very unsettling question. How did these people, who were still largely hunter-gatherers, create such a monumental and intricate site? And what could have driven them to build something of such scale and complexity? Theories abound, but no single explanation has yet satisfactorily answered the mystery of Göbekli Tepe. Some scholars suggest that the site was a religious or ceremonial center, an early expression of human spirituality and group identity. The carvings on the pillars, depicting a menagerie of animals such as lions, boars, snakes, and vultures, hint at a symbolic connection between these creatures and the people who constructed the site. But why this particular selection of animals? What role did these symbols play in the daily lives of those who built and used the site? One of the most intriguing features of Göbekli Tepe is its monumental size and complexity. The site is made up of a series of circular enclosures, with each one containing massive stone pillars arranged in a manner that seems to suggest an almost otherworldly understanding of geometry and spatial arrangement. Many of these stones are engraved with highly detailed reliefs, some of which appear to represent animals that are not native to the area. The carvings are not merely decorative. They seem to tell a story or encode some deeper meaning, one that eludes modern interpretation. The patterns on the pillars also suggest an awareness of astronomy and cosmology. Could these structures have been used for observing the stars, marking the changing seasons, or even tracking celestial events? The sheer scale of the effort involved in building Göbekli Tepe is equally perplexing. The construction of such a site would have required an immense amount of labor, resources, and coordination. Yet, the people who built it were still in the early stages of the Neolithic period, long before the advent of agriculture, metal tools, or complex urban societies. The builders were, in essence, still hunter-gatherers, living in small, nomadic groups. How could they have mustered the necessary manpower and resources to transport and erect stones weighing up to 10 tons each? And what kind of social or religious structure could have compelled them to engage in such an extraordinary feat of engineering and labor? Some theorists have suggested that Göbekli Tepe was not just a religious site, but a central hub for a much larger, yet undocumented civilization, one that had a level of knowledge and technological capability far beyond what was believed possible at the time. This theory posits that the builders of Göbekli Tepe had access to advanced tools or techniques that were lost to history. Could it be that this ancient society had discovered something about stoneworking, engineering, or even astronomy that we have only just begun to understand? Or, as some have speculated, might Göbekli Tepe be the remnants of a lost civilization whose knowledge was wiped out by some catastrophe, perhaps a natural disaster or climate shift? There are also more speculative and fringe theories that suggest even more extraordinary possibilities. Some have drawn connections between the carvings found at Göbekli Tepe and other ancient sites around the world, like the pyramids of Egypt, Stonehenge in England, and even the Mayan ruins of Central America. The similarities in design and symbolism have led some to propose the idea that there may have been some kind of intercontinental exchange of knowledge and culture that predates any known civilizations. Could Göbekli Tepe be the remnants of a global network of early societies, linked by shared knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and architecture? Others have suggested that Göbekli Tepe might have been built as a place of astronomical observation, a primitive observatory for tracking celestial events, such as the movement of the stars and the passage of time. Some of the carvings on the stones appear to resemble constellations or star maps, raising the possibility that these early peoples had an understanding of the cosmos that was far ahead of their time. Could it be that the builders of Göbekli Tepe were engaged in a form of ancient stargazing, One that was both scientific and spiritual? Were they tracking the heavens in search of omens, or perhaps seeking to align their religious rituals with celestial events? For many, one of the most compelling mysteries surrounding Göbekli Tepe is the deliberate burial of the site around 8000 BC. After centuries of use, the site was intentionally covered with a thick layer of soil, as if to hide it from future generations. Why would the people who built such an extraordinary place choose to bury it? Was it a ritualistic act, perhaps an offering to the gods or a means of preserving the sanctity of the site? Or was there some catastrophic event, whether natural or societal, that led to the abandonment of the site? Could the builders of Göbekli Tepe have been trying to protect their creation from destruction, or was there something more deliberate and mysterious at play? As the excavation of Göbekli Tepe continues, more questions arise with each new discovery. The site is still far from fully understood, and every new piece of the puzzle adds to the growing sense of wonder and uncertainty that surrounds it. What was the true purpose of Göbekli Tepe? Was it a religious center, an astronomical observatory, or something else entirely? And how did the people who built it, people who lived in a time long before the rise of cities, writing, and complex societies, possess the knowledge and skill to create such a monumental and intricate site? Despite the many theories, no definitive answers have emerged. Instead, the mysteries of Göbekli Tepe continue to linger, tantalizing us with the promise of discoveries yet to come. Perhaps the most profound question we can ask is not what we know about Göbekli Tepe, but what we do not know, what remains hidden beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered by future generations. And how might these revelations reshape our understanding of the ancient world and our place within it? Göbekli Tepe stands as a monument to the power of human ingenuity, an enigma that refuses to be easily explained. As we peer into its past, we are reminded that there are still many mysteries in the world, mysteries that challenge our assumptions and invite us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about the dawn of human civilization. As the sun rises over the rolling green hills of County Meath in Ireland, there is a sense of quiet, ancient mystery that hangs in the air. On the horizon, the Mound of the Hostages stands, an imposing, solitary structure that seems to rise from the landscape like a forgotten sentinel from another time. This ancient monument, with its weathered stone and earthen embankments, is part of the Noath and Newgrange complex, a site famed for its connection to the Neolithic era and the wider megalithic traditions of the British Isles. Yet, despite its proximity to some of the most celebrated and well-studied prehistoric sites in the world, the Mound of the Hostages remains one of the most enigmatic and underexplored monuments of ancient Ireland. Rising 12 meters above the surrounding earth, the mound is composed of carefully placed stones and layers of earth, creating an almost perfect circular form. At first glance, it appears to be a simple burial mound, a feature common to many Neolithic cultures, but the structure's significance is far deeper and more complex. Within the mound lies a passage tomb, a chamber whose purpose, function, and meaning have baffled archaeologists and historians for centuries. The tomb itself, though modest in size, is positioned so that the chamber aligns with the rising sun during the spring equinox, much like the more famous passage tombs at Newgrange and Noath. But here, the similarities end, and the true mystery of the Mound of the Hostages begins to unfold. The name itself, Mound of the Hostages, evokes images of a dark and ominous past, an idea reinforced by the strange and often contradictory interpretations of the site's purpose. Archaeological evidence suggests that the mound was used as a burial site as far back as 3000 BC, with the bones of several individuals, most likely high-status figures, found inside. But unlike other passage tombs, the mound's purpose seems to go beyond that of a simple burial ground. The term hostage raises the unsettling question of whether the site could have been linked to some form of ritualistic or political exchange, where prisoners were buried in the mound, or perhaps even offered as sacrifices to appease the gods. Could the mound have served as a symbolic act of power, an offering from one tribe or group to another? The passage tomb inside the mound, though it is not as grand as some of its counterparts, is aligned with a fascinating precision, suggesting an advanced understanding of astronomy and cosmic cycles. Unlike other burial mounds, the mound of the hostages has a narrow, stone-lined passage that leads to a small inner chamber. This passage and chamber alignment with celestial events, such as the solstices and equinoxes, suggests that the mound may have held astronomical or ceremonial significance far beyond the burial of the dead. The alignment with the spring equinox, when day and night are of equal length, could point to the idea that this mound was a place of transition, where life and death, light and dark, were symbolically interwoven in rituals aimed at aligning with the cosmos. Yet, beyond its alignment with celestial events, there are even more puzzling questions about the mound's creators. The careful construction of the monument itself, its alignment with the sun, and the deliberate positioning of stones, all speak to a level of sophistication in its builders. Who were these people, and what did they hope to achieve with the mound? Some suggest that the site was built by a group of powerful rulers or spiritual leaders who used the mound as a way to demonstrate their authority, while others argue that it was a communal site where the rituals and ceremonies of an entire society were conducted. There is, however, an even darker theory that persists, one that touches on the idea of hostage-taking. Some speculate that the mound could have been linked to the practice of human sacrifice, or at the very least, the display of power through symbolic acts of subjugation. Was the term hostage used to denote not only a prisoner, but a sacred offering to the gods? While there is little direct evidence to support this theory, it lingers in the shadows of the mound's history. The larger context of the mound of the hostages also raises more questions about the interconnectedness of the ancient societies that populated the British Isles and the surrounding regions. It is part of a complex of tombs and ceremonial structures that include Newgrange, Noath, and Douth, all of which are part of the Brú na Bóinne UNESCO World Heritage Site. These sites share common features, such as large burial chambers, celestial alignments, and a deep connection to the natural world. Could the mound of the hostages have served as a central meeting point, a place where ritual leaders or shamans gathered to discuss the fate of their tribes? And if so, what knowledge or practices were passed down through these sacred spaces? As with many ancient monuments, the true purpose of the mound of the hostages may never be fully understood. What we do know is that it represents a turning point in human history, a point where the builders began to move from purely functional structures to ones with deep spiritual and astronomical significance. The people who constructed these mounds had an intimate relationship with the cosmos, with nature, and with the cycles of life and death. They had the ability to not only predict the movements of the stars, but to align their sacred spaces to these movements, creating a powerful connection between the heavens and the earth. Could this be why the mound is so shrouded in mystery? Perhaps it was not only a burial site, but a place where the very forces of nature were harnessed for ritualistic purposes, a place where life and death, light and darkness, power and submission came together in one sacred space. Yet, despite the advancements and knowledge that these ancient peoples demonstrated, the full meaning of the mound of the hostages remains just out of reach. Could the hostages referred to in the name be symbolic of some lost aspect of human history? Perhaps there is a deeper truth about the rituals and traditions of these ancient peoples that we are not yet ready to uncover. For now, the mound of the hostages stands as a silent witness to a long-forgotten time. The wind whispers through the standing stones, carrying with it the echoes of a people who lived millennia ago, their secrets still buried beneath the soil. As we gaze upon the mound, it's impossible not to wonder what it might still hold, what forgotten knowledge, what undiscovered truths might lie hidden waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves to the world. And so, as the sun sets over the Irish landscape, we are left to ask, what other mysteries remain buried within the earth, waiting to emerge when the time is right? As we peer deeper into the history of the Mound of the Hostages, one cannot help but wonder about the broader cultural context in which it was built. The Neolithic societies of ancient Ireland were deeply connected to their environment, and their monuments reflect not just a functional use of space, but an intricate spiritual worldview. Were the builders of the mound part of a larger, interconnected network of people who shared similar beliefs and practices across Europe? We know that other ancient cultures, from the builders of Stonehenge in Britain to the megalithic builders of France, shared an understanding of celestial cycles and constructed sites to honor these cycles. Was there an ancient, shared knowledge, passed down over generations, that transcended geographic boundaries and led to the creation of sites like the Mound of the Hostages? These questions linger, pulling us into a past where human societies may have been far more advanced in their spiritual and astronomical understanding than we currently believe. In addition to the celestial alignments, some researchers have speculated that the mound may have been used for more practical purposes beyond ritual or burial. Could it have served as a central meeting point for various groups, a place where political, social, and trade negotiations occurred? Evidence of trade, both local and long distance, is well documented throughout Neolithic Ireland. The mound's strategic location, surrounded by fertile lands and easy access to waterways, would have made it an ideal site for gathering groups from far and wide. But what could have been the political or social significance of a mound with such a mysterious name? Were these gatherings a matter of diplomacy, as the term hostages might suggest, or were they deeply ritualistic in nature, involving offerings, exchanges, or even bloodlines? An especially intriguing aspect of the mound is the lack of clear evidence regarding its intended use. Unlike Newgrange or Noath, which have clearer ritualistic and astronomical functions, the Mound of the Hostages does not reveal its full story so easily. While it is certain that the mound was a burial site for high-status individuals, the nature of these burials remains unclear. Were the buried individuals symbolic leaders, revered ancestors, or victims of some forgotten rite? The use of the word hostages in its name only adds layers of complexity to these questions. Was it simply a metaphor for the honored dead, or did the term hold a more literal, darker meaning? Some have proposed that the mound could have been the site of human sacrifice, perhaps the ultimate political offering made by one tribe to another. Yet, such theories remain speculative, with no conclusive evidence to support them. The name Mound of the Hostages serves as both a key to understanding and a barrier to understanding, leading us to more questions than answers.